where it came from. Diving stop Winn. Thought about the bag instead of throw to first. An amazing play by Masyn Winn to Rob Rondon on a rocket up the middle. Line into right center field. That's going to roll for a while. Masyn Winn streaks around first on his way to second. He turns and burns. He's going to third. Here comes the relay. It's going to be late. It's a triple for Masyn Winn with one out.
With Alex and T-Bone on BK, that audio courtesy of Bally Sports Midwest as the St. Louis Cardinals pick up another win yesterday. Alex, you look back at that homestand, you look back at that series against the Pirates, you win 2 out of 3 against them.
You see how he amended that, T-Bone? He goes, you look back at that homestand, oh crap, they lost to the Rockies. You
Just
look back at that Pirates series.
Yeah, you didn't lose the series against the Rockies, and you did win the series against the Pirates. See how I do that? It's not you split the series against the Rockies. It's you didn't lose the series against the Rockies.
You didn't lose the series against the worst team, second worst team in the National League right now.
Yeah.
But hey,
you sure didn't.
Winning's winning, right? You won 3 of your last 4 games.
That's right. You've won 3 of the last 4, 4 of the last 6. You're feeling pretty good about where this team is at right now, maybe.
You are.
I'm feeling really good about where Masyn Winn is at right now, is the honest-to-God answer. I was looking this up earlier today because I was thinking to myself, man, what are we witnessing? Because when I watch him on a night-in, night-out basis, Alex, he always seems to do something that catches your attention. And then you look at the numbers for him so far this year. He's probably been the Cardinals' best player so far this season from start to finish.
Not probably. He has been the best Cardinals player.
He's batting .302. He has 12 doubles already this season, 3 triples on the year. He's added a few home runs as well. His OPS is above 780 now. If you look at WAR, and I know people don't like WAR, but it's just one number that you can use to evaluate a season. He has 2.5 wins above replacement already so far this year, Alex. We're a little more than a third of the way through the season. He's on pace for roughly a 5 to 6 win season. That's unbelievable for a rookie. To be able to do this at his age at that position is absurd. And so you just look at the raw numbers. He's batting .300, which is one hell of a feat in the modern game where nobody hits .300 anymore. So I wanted to look back, especially at shortstop. Who are the guys as young as Masyn Winn that have got to this point in a season and we're hitting at least .300, Alex? Over the last 20 years, here is the entire list of shortstops. Masyn Winn's age or younger. It's about at least .300 at this point in the season. Jose Reyes, Hanley Ramirez, Starlin Castro, Gene Segura, Francisco Lindor, Xander Bogaerts, Wander Franco, and this year we've seen it from both Bobby Witt Jr. and Masyn Winn.
I just heard a lot of stars.
You don't do this by accident. You don't just get to this point in a season at that age, hitting .300, and luck into it. If you do this, you're a star. You're a star. What we are seeing is what I thought was going to be Masyn Winn's ceiling, and he's doing it in his rookie year. Now, we've seen this. We've talked about it with Jordan Walker, with Dylan Carlson. Progress is not linear. We have no idea what next year or beyond will look like. But I'm shocked by the way that he's playing so far this year. I can't imagine where the Cardinals would be if they didn't have this specific player playing this way at this point in the season, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned his OPS, and like guys this season that he's better than in terms of OPS. Vlad Guerrero Jr., Pete Alonso, Matt Olson with the Atlanta Braves. Like, you're not just talking about a dude who's just come into his own and is just getting real lucky. This has been from start to finish. Masyn Winn has just been a consistent, straight line player for the Cardinals. You know exactly what you're getting. It's no facade of like, oh, he's got this power that we didn't know about. Is it going to sustain? It's all about contact with him. It's all about the appropriate approach at the plate, and it's all about his defense. And every aspect of that game, again, I always go back, and I think I'm going to for the rest of his career, to the conversation we had with him last year where he told us, I'm a slow starter when I get a taste of the new league, but as soon as I figure it out, I'm off and running. He said it was that way at AA, it was that way at AAA, and that's what he did at majors. Last year, we were like, oh, this guy's going to be a 9-hole hitter for the rest of his career, but you're going to get gold glove defense.
Treat him like Yachty. That's what we said, right? Hey, look at the defense that you're getting.
And the
that's
bad
all
Yachty,
that matters.
not the good Yachty.
Yeah, early career Yachty, where it's anything that he does offensively is a plus. The defense is why he's in the line.
In a matter of 2 months, he's gone from that, for me, to this is one of your core pieces if you're going to have success moving forward.
Absolutely. One of the biggest differences between what they are right now and what they were over the past 2 years is Masyn Winn. He's the guy that I feel like every time he's coming to the plate, he's making something happen. And when he's in the field, he's also creating something out there. And that was the backdrop to MLB Network's conversation yesterday. This is after the game. They had a conversation about the Cardinals game and what they saw from it. They broke down Masyn Winn. I thought this was a great way to phrase it from Chris Young.
He forces you to pay attention to him when he's on the field. He's a gamer. I love watching him do his thing out there on defense. He's +6 defensive run save. He's 4th in baseball as far as shortstops go. He's a solid baseball player, and I love to see him develop.
He forces you to pay attention. Yep. That's what Masyn Winn does. In a day where very few baseball players get you to, they force you to put your eyes onto the field, whether you're at the ballpark and you're, in the concourse trying to grab yourself a beer between innings, whatever. If Masyn Winn's name is announced in Fat Bottom Jeans comes up, his new song that they play. Have you seen?
He is my favorite player because of that song. It's one of my favorite songs.
What's the other one? He has 2. He's got that one and
it doesn't even matter.
Jukebox Hero. That's the other one.
That's great, but Fat Bottom Girls with Masyn Winn. This is a 22-year-old who is walking up to Freddie Mercury singing "Fat Bottom Girls, Won't You Take Me Home Tonight." That is a star, and I've never seen anybody at that highest of a level than Masyn Winn.
I didn't even know what you were going with.
I didn't either. I started that sentence and didn't know how I was finishing it.
Masyn Winn comes to the plate, and you are forced to pay attention because you don't know what's coming next. You don't know. Could be a triple, could be a double, could be a homer, could be a single.
Could be a fat bottom girl.
It is consistent production that we have seen from him. It's hitting streaks, it's on base streaks, it's unbelievable plays at shortstop that maybe 3 other guys in the league could make. Yesterday, he had that highlight reel defensive play as well. He's changing the way that you look at the Cardinals defensively and offensively because of what he's done so far this year. To say that about a rookie is unbelievable. The other key difference, though, for this team compared to a year ago is the bullpen. What you saw yesterday, they weren't capable of that last year, man. No chance they could have won that game last year because you end up getting less than 5 innings out of your starter, and we would have known then 4 1/3 innings, 3 earned runs out of your starter, over. No chance you're winning that game because you're probably only going to score another run, maybe 2, and your bullpen's going to blow up. Well, yesterday, you're able to go to John King for more than an inning. You're able to go to Chris Roycroft, who has become one hell of a weapon for them coming out of the pen right now. Matthew Liberatore, Ryan Fernandez, Andrew Kittredge. I did not mention JoJo Romero, by the way, or Ryan Helsley, who are 2 of your high leverage arms that you did not have to go to last night because these other guys were able to lock things down for you. To get half of the outs from that bullpen yesterday and for them to allow exactly 0 runs, that is pretty damn impressive to be able to get through that the way that the Cardinals did yesterday. Ollie did a good job, I thought, of navigating it. More importantly, the guys that were thrown out there, they were all guys that you could trust in that situation. That didn't exist a year ago.
I'm going to do something that I never thought I would do on this show, and that's reference a T-Bone 3. Because T-Bone nailed it. And you don't just have...
I think I could go 3 for 3 this year, by the way.
Let's pump the brakes a little bit here. You don't just have 3 guys that you can trust. I mean, right now it feels like, with the exception of a couple of dudes, Leahy and Ludus are the 2 that I'm referencing right now. Sorry, boys. But I don't get uncomfortable when anybody comes out of the bullpen right now. Like with John King, with Roycroft, with Liberatore, with Fernandez, I don't get uncomfortable with them. Which last year, there was one dude that came out of that bullpen where I'm like, okay, we're good here because everything else was going to be a disaster. That is one thing that every Cardinals fan should appreciate and applaud John Mozeliak for, because you've locked down that bullpen to where if you get to the playoffs, and I'm still not buying into this team, but if you get into the playoffs, that's a weapon that I'm not sure a lot of teams are going to have, because you might have 7 or 8, maybe 9 guys, if you can use all of them, including the guys that could be in your rotation, your bullpen, that are going to be a disaster for other teams.
You remember last year when I said John King could be actually something that helps the Cardinals, and you guys were like, John King, the CNN guy? No,
I also remember you not being the biggest fan of him being on the roster points this season.
Yeah, I think you complained at the beginning of the season with John King.
Yeah,
you were actually upset.
John King guy, not great. And I'm like, what? He's been fine. He's getting ground balls, like what John King should do.
I don't feel like I did that.
Yeah, no, you did. You did. We could go find the cut if we want.
I will dive
I'll go
back
find the
into
cut
the
of
tea.
me saying that he's better than people are giving him credit for last year. I remember that.
All right, well, that team sucks. I don't really care
Sorry,
about
team,
that
I'm gonna
one.
cut you off. What were you about to say?
They run 6 deep in this bullpen, and they have guys for every role. You know, do you have high leverage arms that can be setup men? Check with Kittredge and JoJo Romero. Do you have a elite closer? Check with Ryan Helsley. Do you have a kind of left-handed specialist that you can go to? Check. That's Matthew Liberatore. Do you have that third right-handed arm that can cover for when Helsley or Kittredge is down? Yeah, you saw him last night in Fernandez. Hell, you saw it with Roycroft as well. Do you have a double play specialist? Check. You got John King. Do you have a guy that doesn't matter in the bullpen? Yeah, check. Kyle Leahy's there. Like, they have everything that they need.
You have a guy that doesn't matter. That's not nice. True, not nice.
It's fair.
Is it not nice or is it correct?
Yeah. Like, there's always that role in the bullpen.
But wait, Gio's coming back soon. He can take
All right,
over.
well, he'll take that. Roll check. Like, this is the best bullpen they've had in a while. And even you referenced 2023. I'll go to the last playoff team, 2022. They didn't have this deep of a bullpen because on a day where you didn't have Helsley available, and let's say you didn't have at that point Cabrera available,
you were screwed.
It was Gio, and then like who got you there? It was like Verhagen, Woodford, some guy named Junior Fernandez, a lefty named Packy Naughton that's still in the organization.
Junior Fernandez threw heat.
You just couldn't get there. Like, you just couldn't. These are the type of games that separate good teams from the bad teams.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. The YouTube chat is off and running at youtube.com/101ESPN-STL. We'll get to Ask Us Anything coming up at the end of this hour from the 618. Guys, the Cardinals are 6.5 games back in the division. Pump the brakes, will you? No, sir, I will not.
BK will not. Because they're only, 3 games out of the wild card spot.
They are in the wild card as of today.
No, I mean the top wild card.
They are 3.5 games back of the Atlanta Braves right now for the top wild card spot, and the Braves are really scuffling. They do not look like the Braves that we remember. Their pitching is a disaster. Their offense has not come together. Thank God for them. Marcell Ozuna is hitting because nobody else is in their lineup. That is a team that looks much more likely to fade than it is to pull away from the rest of the National League wild card right now. I'm not telling you the Cardinals are a great team. I don't think they are a great team. We've said that for months now on this show. But they're good enough. They're good enough to be in this race. And you look at what they have schedule-wise, there's absolutely an opportunity in front of them right now to be able to gain some ground in the National League wildcard race. It's a sign of the times. The National League wildcard race stinks. But we're going to talk about them like they're a playoff team because as of today, that is exactly what they are. I should amend that. I'm going to talk about them like they're a wildcard team because as of today, that is exactly what they are. I can't speak for the two of you. I don't think you're going to talk about them like they're a playoff team.
They're bad.
Yeah. Coming up in about 15 minutes, Sergei Bobrovsky. He's like 40 years old. He is exactly the reason why the Blues should not trade Jordan Binnington. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. But my understanding is the lineup is out. That means we'll play the lineup game for a day game at Wrigley coming up next year on 101 ESPN. All right, it's time for the lineup game here on BK and Ferrario with Alex and T-Bone on BK. It is a day game at Wrigley, feeling just right on a Friday, going into Father's Day weekend with a day game at Wrigley Field between two teams, Alex, that are fighting for a wild card spot. This feels right. Feels good to be back.
Loosely using the term fighting for a wild card spot.
All right, Kyle Gibson on the mound today for the St. Louis Cardinals. Jordan Wicks getting the start with his goggles on the mound for the Chicago Cubs. He is a left-handed pitcher, and so far this year, Alex, if you look at the breakdown of his splits, it's limited sample size, but he does have some reverse splits so far this year. Righties have, he's got the splits you'd expect.
What? Are you having a rough day today?
I am. I'm having this issue with my throat.
Adam's apple getting in the way.
No, I'm having some food particles that are getting stuck in it. I'm going to the doctor later on this afternoon. In the way? Yeah, probably.
Is it like one of those like clog plugs? Huh?
Are you making up an injury?
Is this like in the bathtub, where like the plug won't lift up?
Lefties are hitting him slightly better than righties.
Well,
That's
why
what
did
I'm
you
trying
say
to
that
get
the
at.
first time?
I don't know. I was struggling.
Tell us about your fake injuries over here. All right, so let's lead this off the way we should. There's no back problems today. The MVP of this team, Masyn Winn, is leading off.
I'm watching the Futures game, and this thing's all over Instagram. It's like, this guy threw a ball 100 across the time. That's awesome. But, like, how many throwing errors does he have?
Shut up!
Enough that. Go on, I'll let you take this one.
Batting second today actually is kind of interesting to me.
Oh, did you look at it already?
No, I don't think it's going to be Alec Burleson is why I'm saying it's interesting to me.
So it's not going to be their second best hitter on this team.
Well, I think you got to go with a righty here. I think you go with Paul Goldschmidt.
Whoa. Goldie's been heating up, though. Why wouldn't you keep him in the 3-hole?
Because I want to get as many at-bats as possible for a guy that I think has a really good chance to be able to destroy.
You don't just
pitching.
Change for change's sake, BK.
What do you want to do?
No, what do you want to do? I got the first one right.
I would go Paul Goldschmidt.
All right, go for it.
What the H is wrong with you guys?
What did I tell you before we started this segment? I said, don't bleep this up.
All right.
It's Alec Burleson.
Burley. You're so rugged and manly.
You've won 3 of the last 4 games. You can't stop this train while it's moving forward.
I don't like it.
I don't like it. Unbelievable.
I don't think that he should be batting second. I think.
Would you like to give yourself some grace for this one to get right?
Would you like to hear what Alec Burleson has done so far this year against left-handed pitching?
No.
He's batting 200 with an OPS of 580.
So what you're saying is the manager made the wrong decision.
Yeah, I think that it should be.
Just wait till you find out the other mistake coming up.
Oh, God.
All right.
Dylan Carlson's playing,
I think
isn't
they
he?
will continue going with what they've done. Paul Goldschmidt batting third.
I love gold.
Now, this next one is probably what Tanner Hendrickson is referencing. You want to do the honors?
Day off for Nolan Arenado?
No. Maybe because of the hand, but.
Nolan Arenado!
Nolan is a security guard at the lumber yard.
Can I give you his numbers so far this year against left-handed pitching?
They are brutal.
You hate this lineup.
225 batting average. You want to know what his on-base percentage is against left-handed pitching, Alex?
Sure.
It's 230.
That's good.
He has 1 walk this season against left-handed pitching in 58 at-bats. That is hard. That is hard to accomplish. He has an OPS of 580. So
you're saying he's due for a hit.
Don't love it. All right, Alex, that is our cleanup hitter batting 5th. I'm guessing
Gorman?
They will go Gorman here. But again, got some not so
I wouldn't
splits
do
against
it.
lefties.
Storm and Garmin. He's taking the league by storm.
OPS of 700 against left-handed pitching so far this
good.
year.
That's good.
Batting sixth, I think this is going to be...
Herrera
would make a lot of sense. Let's go Ivan Herrera here.
I'm just going to say this right now. I think Ivan Herrera is going to hit a home run right here.
Oh. Marsh just literally called that at Ballpark Village. Had a vision.
All right. 7-8, I think, will be Jose Fermin and Dylan Carlson.
I would say
one way or another.
Yeah. I would say Dylan above Fermin.
You going to go Dylan Carlson?
Yeah, I would say Dylan because this is the opportunity.
They clearly view Jose Fermin as a better hitter against left-handed pitching.
You want to go Fermin? Let's do that.
I think I would go Jose Fermin here, personally.
Hit it.
You are so wrong.
I'm 0 for 2. Let's try Dylan Carlson.
Hey,
There you go.
Carl.
Man, I
Good
said
to see you.
don't screw this up.
Can we try Jose Fermin here?
Sure, buddy.
You're wrong.
Oh, okay.
Not Donovan.
Is it a Pages day?
Well, Herrera's in.
I know, but you could go Herrera, DH, Pages.
Well, you
catcher.
don't have two catchers. Or you have both catchers in the lineup. You can't do that. Kyle Gibson. If this is true, Kyle Gibson said, I'm not catching Ivan Herrera, and Herrera's going to be an outfielder.
Matt Carpenter?
Against a lefty?
That's what I'm confused here.
And Donovan's probably not after getting hit yesterday.
What?
With
We already have Donovan.
We did? No, we didn't.
No,
Donovan's not in the lineup.
Donnie.
No, I don't think Donnie's in.
All right, way to go, Donnie.
Never mind. Donnie's in.
My apologies. And then you
So
want to
then
go.
This would be for me? Oh, no, because if Donovan's playing, Carlson's
be
playing,
Carlson in
Burleson.
center. With one of those guys as the DH.
You want to go for me?
Let's go for me.
No, no, no.
Let's go Michael Ciani.
Well, he's the 9-hole hitter. Pages. They're going to do the two-catcher thing. This is dumb.
Should have written down. I've today. I apologize.
Huh?
I've had a bad segment. I just want to apologize to everybody. I've had a really bad segment here.
Well,
Do you
it's
like
the
to
9
hear
holes
the
right now.
full
It's
lineup?
because he's got this thing with his throat where something gets stuck in it and it's hard for him to swallow.
Was that the 9?
Yeah.
That was the 8.
Okay, that's why I was confused. You told me it was the 8 hole, and I was like, that was 9.
Yeah,
that was the
that's
lineup.
9 hole. This is the starting lineup because this segment's not
That
going
was
great.
not the 9-hole.
It
Leading
was.
off.
This is why. Okay, now you're having a bad segment.
Leading
T-Bone.
off, Masyn Winn at short, followed by Alec Burleson in right. Then it'll be Paul Goldschmidt at first, Nolan Arenado at third, Nolan Gorman at second base. Ivan Herrera is the DH. Batting seventh, Dylan Carlson in center. Brendan Donovan hits eighth in left field. Pedro Pages will bat ninth.
Because we got caught up with the Donovan one, and I thought that one was the 7-hole still. We spent so much time on it. That's a terrible lineup.
So here's the problem for the Cardinals.
You're using two catchers in the lineup?
No, I'm actually fine with that because they don't have a good lineup against left-handed pitching right now. It's weird because this has been a team that has crushed left-handed pitching over the last couple of years, and a lot of that has come from Goldie and Arenado. Well, when Arenado is playing the way that he has, and he's been horrible so far this year against lefties. One of the worst, I think actually by OPS, your worst hitter among qualified guys against lefties. Your lineup just suddenly looks really bad. I mentioned how I don't like Burleson in the 2-hole. It's fair of me to say, but then, okay, if you don't go to Burleson there, you're probably going to Goldie, and then you're going with, like, Herrera or Carlson batting third probably, and then you've got Arenado, I suppose, batting cleanup. Like, you don't have good options right now against left-handed starters, and it's why I think the next couple of days could be a real struggle for the Cardinals offensively. They have got to be excellent defensively. They need really good starting pitching, especially today out of Kyle Gibson. They've got to win these games in low-scoring affairs because their offense has struggled mightily against these left-handed starters.
Well, that's their specialty, and it's 3 straight lefties, right? In all 3 of these games for the Cubs?
Yeah, Wicks, Imanaga, and then I don't remember.
2 out of 3.
2 out of the 3 is?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this goes back to the Ollie comment against the Pirates game. And what was that? The first game where he was talking about there's no options off of the bench. And right now, when you go up against a lefty, you're relying on Jose Fermin and Dylan Carlson to be your big bats for you.
And that's the big thing.
And
to
there's
me.
your problem.
You need Dylan Carlson to get going.
Yeah.
And people know where I stand on Dylan Carlson. I'm not a believer that it's going to happen, but the best thing that could possibly happen for this team, and it would be a significant change in terms of what you're seeing from them so far, they need Dylan Carlson to be a guy that they can trust against left-handed pitching. Just go out there, and whether that's in right field long-term or in center, I don't care. They just need him to be able to play because so far this year he's batting 200 against right-handed pitching. That is a bad lefty against lefty-handed pitching. So he's got to be a guy that can go up there batting right-handed, and you have confidence is going to give you some amount of production against lefties because you're just not getting that from anywhere else in your lineup so far this year. Cardinals against the Cubs coming up at 1 o'clock. Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll get into Ask Us Anything. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. But next, guys, Sergei Bobrovsky is showing us why the Blues should not trade Jordan Binnington. We'll explain why next year on 101 ESPN.
Terry Hendricks near with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. The St. Louis Cardinals beat the Pittsburgh Pirates yesterday 4-3 as they take 2 of 3. They start a 3-game weekend set at the Chicago Cubs today. 1:20 will be first pitch. Kyle Gibson on the mound for St. Louis. Jordan Wicks will be on the mound for the Chicago Cubs. And tonight here at 101 ESPN, the Boston Celtics look to sweep the Dallas Mavericks and win the NBA Finals. Game 4 tonight. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 6:30. This Sports Center update was driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Alex, as we're watching this Stanley Cup final right now, and it looks like the Florida Panthers are going to run away with this thing as they're up 3-0. I think there's a decent chance this ends up being a sweep. I thought last night Edmonton would come away with a win as this thing went back to Edmonton. Didn't happen. Florida, once again, asserting their dominance for the vast majority of the game. Ended up being close at the end. That was a Florida domination game. And part of that is because they just have the better goalie. You're watching this series and you're watching the two teams on the ice. The skaters, I do think there's an advantage for Florida, but Edmonton certainly has plenty of talent in that regard. The problem they don't have a goalie. They don't have a goalie that can play the puck. I feel like we've underestimated that from Jordan Binnington over the years, and you see it when you're watching these teams on display. Skinner just doesn't handle the puck, and it led to directly led to a goal last night by Florida. And Bobrovsky's been amazing, and he's been awesome all season long. And Alex, the reason I bring this up is because Bobrovsky is 35 years old. He's playing in his age 35 season. And one of the things that I feel like we see a lot on the text line is that the Blues should trade Jordan Binnington because when they're good again, he's going to be out of his prime. He's not going to be a guy that you can trust between the pipes because he's going to be 33, 34, 35 years old at that point. Well, as I'm watching Bobrovsky, I think to myself, why not? Why can't he still be a really good player at that point in his career? Because Bobrovsky has been their goalie in Florida for all of these playoff runs over the last few seasons. And that started really in his mid to late 30s, and I don't think he's showing any real signs of decline right now. So if you're able to put the team around Jordan Binnington, I see no reason to believe that he can't age the way that Bobrovsky has. Watching this so far in this Stanley Cup final has given me a lot of confidence, even more confidence, that the Blues can continue winning with Jordan Binnington in net whenever they are ready to start contending again.
And the part for Bobrovsky, too, that I find so interesting and why it falls into what you're saying, BK, is look at from 33 on, he has started 53 games, 49 games, 58 games, all in the regular season for the Panthers, and has been out there sporting a 913, 901, and 915 save percentage. So
his regular season numbers are eerily similar to that of Jordan Binnington.
They really are. And in the postseason, where in the last 2 seasons, he started every single game for the Florida Panthers, a 915 save percentage, and then right now in the postseason, a 916 save percentage. So we talked about this with Petro when the contract negotiation was going on, and I remember Carlo Koliakovo telling us that, defensemen age like fine wine. Some defensemen get better as they get older. And although the goaltending position is a lot more taxing position because there's a lot more going on, and if injury pops up, it's hard to get back to that. If you've got the right goaltender that can sustain the longevity, you're talking about somebody who can be a top echelon goaltender all the way up until he's about 35 years old. I mean, Henrik Lundqvist did this, and I know he's a Hall of Famer. I'm not saying Binnington is that, but even a Jonathan Quick, I was looking at this earlier, started to dip off about 34 years old. Now he's gotten a little bit better at this point, and some of that's the team that's around him. Jordan Binnington is a gamer. We know that about him. We heard that from him, who's always trying to find different ways to make him better. Because he's so good now is a major reason why I wouldn't trade him. But if you believe you're competitive in 2 years, 2 or 3 years, I mean, you're still 32, 33 years old. And as much as people believe he's going to be out of his prime, and that may be the case if an injury pops up, you knock on wood. But I'm not going to dictate a decision to trade him because of what could happen in 2-3 years from now. Because what could happen is he could be Sergei Bobrovsky. And if there's anything people are learning from the playoffs right now, it's if you've got a good team, you need to make sure your goaltender is a position you don't have to worry about. Because Edmonton right now thought they had the goaltender that could do it. And I would argue a lot of those players right now are wondering, how they handle that goaltender, because you make decisions predicated off of the goalie and what he does on the ice. So unless I'm getting a massive deal that changes the outlook of my franchise and expedites this retool by trading Binnington, Bobrovsky's starting to prove to me that I'm not going to start searching for another one.
And it's more than just that, right? Like the defensive cores are obviously significantly different in this series between what the Florida Panthers have versus what Edmonton has. And the Blues have to improve there as well. There's a lot. There's a lot that goes into becoming a Stanley Cup contender. But somebody on the text line said, guys, Bobrovsky is the exception, not the rule. Ask yourself, do you believe that Binnington can also be the exception to the rule? My answer is yes. I don't have reason to believe that he won't be. It would be the way that I would frame it, Alex. We have not seen Binnington deal, and again, like you said, knock on wood, with a lot of injuries over the course of his career. He does seem to take care of himself body-wise very well. He trains hard. He puts himself in position to be able to start 40, 50, 60 games in any individual season. He also, just from a pure body perspective, like the way that they are built, he and Bobrovsky are similar in that regard. They're both pretty tall. They're both pretty lanky. And they both, over the course of their careers, have really similar numbers. So,
but see, here's the thing, BK. It's not. I mean, Bobrovsky's not the exception. I mean, Ben Bishop had to retire because of injuries. But Ben Bishop, when he was 33 years old, had a .920 save percentage in 50 games played.
But the fact that we can name individual guys that were able to succeed late into their 30s does kind of speak to the point. Like it's not. It is the rarity. Most guys are not super successful when they get into their mid to late 30s. I will fully acknowledge that. But some can. Some are the exception to the rule where you can continue to build around them. And the other thing is, and we saw, or you said, Alex, something about, hey, if you trade him, you better get a haul, an absolute haul. I don't think they would. And that's ultimately what this comes down to for me, is if the Blues are able to get some Godfather offer where you just can't refuse it, all right, I'm at least willing to listen. I probably still wouldn't do it.
And you'll find out this offseason, because I think you're going to see one or two goaltenders get traded that show you a return of what you could get for Binnington and Saros and Markstrom.
And the truth is, like, we just don't see those kinds of deals come together very often in the NHL. We see the value of a good goalie, but teams just believe they can find that goalie, whether it's coming from internal or a guy that they can pick up off the scrap heap like Darcy Kemper, and the Avalanche have such a great team around him that we're just going to plug this guy in and we'll see if it ends up working.
Right.
It's like relievers. Teams in Major League Baseball don't value the closer position the way that they once did, because most World Series winners do not have the closer in the World Series that they had on opening day. The vast majority of them finish the season with a different closer than they started with. That's due to injury. It's also because you continue adding relievers as you go along throughout the season if you're a contender. So I think the same is true at times with goalies. Teams just believe they'll figure it out. We'll keep trying it with somebody new until we find one that ends up working if we're a consistent contender. So I don't think they value the goalie position the way that we think they should. The Blues do. Yeah. The Blues clearly place a significant value on Benner. He's more valuable to the Blues than he is to anybody else in the NHL right now. And so the hope for them is he becomes the next Sergei Bobrovsky, and he's the guy that you can win with 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road.
And the other reason why I feel like longevity-wise he's not going to be one of those that's out of his prime when you're ready to compete is the workload, being able to manage it, because you've got Joel Hofer. You're not going to be like Bobrovsky's had to be relied upon for 50 to 60 games because they haven't had a legit backup up until this season when they had somebody start before him, and then Bobrovsky retook the reins later on in the season. You're still looking at two guys that probably, I would say 45, somewhere in between that number in terms of mixing it up with Joel Hofer and Jordan Binnington. And you're going to be able to do that for the next couple of years. And then by the time you're ready to compete, if Binnington is still in that prime and you have Joel Hofer, and I think you're going to have two guys that are making less than $8 million, you can 50-50 split it. And I know Boston didn't work out for them in the playoffs, but it wasn't because of goaltending. You had one guy that was the number one, but you had another to go to if you needed to. And that's the luxury that the Blues are going to have for the next 3 to 4 years.
As we see, Alex, what is happening right now in the Stanley Cup final, do you think people are ready to admit that we might have been right about the Western Conference being far inferior to the Eastern Conference?
I think you should save that question for Chris Kerber on Wednesday next week when you made the bet, when we both made the bet with him.
Because I feel pretty comfortable with my assessment of that at this point.
This would be a great comeback by the Oilers.
It hasn't happened since the Maple Leafs in the 40s.
It's not happening. They're done.
It's happening.
They're done.
The Maple Leafs, the team that literally has been jinxed, I think, since that 3-0 comeback.
I'm kind of rooting for them to win Game 4 because I want to see this series back in Florida. I would like to see Florida win it at home.
There is something bittersweet about a Stanley Cup being raised in Canada against a team.
That's fair. But
USA.
I don't know that they have it in them. I don't know that Edmonton has it in them. I think this was their last stand. They tried. They had a push. I think it was the second period, Alex, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
They had a push where it was like, okay, if it's going to happen, now is the time. And it just didn't happen.
Game 2 was their tell. Game 2 was their tell. Game 2, they were playing poker, and they basically told them what they had in their hand, and the Panthers called their bluff. When Draisaitl took out Barkov, that was Edmonton saying, we don't know how to beat you with a full roster. So this is the way we're going to accomplish that. And that's why I told you I thought Game 3 was going in favor of Florida. Because when Barkov said he was coming back, that felt like a defeat moment for the Edmonton Oilers. Now, I know what's going to happen. Game 4, Evander Kane is going to be all of a sudden healthy and he's going to play, and they think that's going to eliminate Matthew Tkachuk. I don't believe Edmonton has an answer for the elimination of McDavid and Draisaitl. You know their top 5 goal scorers, and we talked about this 2 weeks ago, T-Bone, how it's Hyman, it's Nugent-Hopkins, it's McDavid and Draisaitl, and then beyond those 4 dudes, you have like a 15-point drop-off in terms of playoffs. None of those players I just mentioned have a goal in the series. The top line has eliminated the other top line, and now you go to depth. And guess what? Edmonton has no depth. Florida's got depth.
This series had to be won with the Stars if Edmonton was going to win. It has to be won with depth if Florida was going to win. Yep. Very simple formula. The two teams are just totally different roster constructions, and the depth has won. The Stars on the Florida Panthers have taken away the Stars on the Edmonton Oilers, and the depth has been able to outperform the depth on Edmonton. And you look across the Western Conference this year, I just think what we're seeing now is the reality that Dallas was good. Were they 115 points good? No, I think they just were in a Western Conference where they could rack up a bunch of points this year. They were solid team. Winnipeg, solid team. Colorado, nowhere close to what they have been in recent seasons this year. Vancouver, really good team, flawed. Edmonton, we know what they are. They've been this team for a few years now. It's not anything different, and I think we're seeing that right now in the Stanley Cup final. The difference this year, there's no Vegas like they were. There's no Colorado like they were. And so, Edmonton ends up getting through. I think this Edmonton team is the same as it's been in recent seasons. And then the Kings, I think we saw, that was a fraudulent Kings team. Yeah. And the Vegas Golden Knights, not the same team as they've been in previous years. It's just the entire conference was down. And so when people were trying to prop these teams up, they're like, yeah, but look at the Eastern Conference teams that got in and the points that they had versus the points that because the East was better. Yeah. They're going up against better teams throughout the season, and so they ended up having depleted numbers in terms of their points. Florida was the best team from start to finish this year. It was Florida, Carolina, New York. Those teams were all better than anybody in the Western Conference, and I'll fight anybody tooth and nail.
You're going to fight? Man, I hope Jamie Rivers wants to take the other side of that one. See, and nobody's going to want to admit this, but Edmonton had an easy path to get to the Stanley Cup final, and they were rested, and that's how they got past Dallas. Dallas had to go through a gauntlet to get to the Western Conference final, and Edmonton didn't. And now and that's why I fully expected Florida, because Florida had to go through Tampa, Boston, and the Rangers to get there. Edmonton had to deal with the LA Kings, the Vancouver Canucks, which was a really good series, and then who was the other team that they had to deal with? Dallas. Okay, and Dallas, you're talking about, that was the gauntlet, and Dallas was a worn-down team at that time. I think you saw the scale heavily go into one direction once Edmonton got to the Cup final.
I just don't think they were that good. Coming up next, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Ask us anything. Coming up next here on 101 ESPN. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for Ask Us Anything. If you guys have any questions, sports or otherwise, go ahead and get them in right now on the Air Comfort Service text line. From the 314, guys, does the weak West make the Blues try to speed up their retool? And if so, how do you think they go about it?
I mean, I don't think it causes the Blues to be overly aggressive and make bad decisions because of the weak West. But if I'm in their shoes, I would look at it and say maybe it is an offseason for us to be aggressive, because I think without making any moves, you're in the exact same position as you were last year, where you're maybe less than 10 points out of a wild card spot, because Calgary has made it pretty clear they're rebuilding. The Utah Hockey Club, which they're going to be kind of in the murky middle. Seattle the same, and then the bottom three are going to stink. So I would be aggressive to try and make myself 4 to 5, maybe 6 points better to put you in the same conversation as the Nashville Predators, LA Kings, Minnesota Wild. So I think you could be a playoff team if you make a couple of moves.
I think you could be, but I don't think they will. I think the Blues are going to stick with how they've decided this timeline. I don't think they want to over-accelerate things because of a fear that maybe you make that one bad trade, like a Pierre-Luc Dubois type trade, that throws the retool off its track. So I think they kind of hold pat and do what we've talked about. Try to get younger, let the young guys play, let Bolduc play. Maybe Dvorsky makes a team and plays. Zach Dean's going to be playing with the team next year. I think there's still going to be a team that could potentially get worse before they get better.
You know that I'm lockstep with T-Bone on this. That being said, the weaker Western Conference, I believe, makes it more likely or more beneficial for the Blues to be aggressive, like Alex said. I don't think that's going to be the route that they decide to go. From the 314, guys, have we crossed the temperature threshold where you aren't going outside unless you absolutely have to at this point?
Yeah.
No, you're not.
Oh, yeah, I am.
Alex, what are you doing tomorrow?
Oh, well, that's a different story.
Okay. Oh, okay.
That's a different story.
So what are your plans tomorrow?
Golfing in 99-degree weather, which is not going to be beneficial. But in terms of going outside, my daughters wanted to go jump on the trampoline yesterday, and I was like, sure, let's go outside. We went out there for about 5 minutes. I said, let's go back inside. It was so hot yesterday, and my house was like 76 degrees, and my air conditioner was working.
You know how it works with a 1-year-old? You kind of have to do what they say. There's not really...
No, man.
There's no telling them no. They tell you no.
You just got to distract them with something else.
And Luca's number one priority at all times is how quickly can I get back outside? How quickly can I get back outside? Yeah. Which was fine over the last few months.
Oh, yeah.
And as of yesterday, is no longer fun. It is no longer fun.
The good part is I have a 3- and a 2-year-old who can, like, verbalize how they're feeling, and both of them said, Daddy, it's hot. And so they're like, yeah, let's go inside.
Yeah, the
problem is we've got, like, a water table that they always want to play with.
That's what we did
They've got the pool. Yeah, and it's like, oh, God.
Brutal.
So tomorrow I've got a half marathon, so that's my plan.
And you're saying my idea of going to golf was dumb? At least I stand and sit in a golf cart. You're going to run.
Yeah. If anybody is running in the Love to Run St. Charles Half Marathon tomorrow, come by, say hello.
No. I'll be thinking of all you guys while you're sweating and being miserable.
I'm hoping to pace at roughly a 150.
What time's your run?
7:30.
Yep. Morning? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I ain't going to be up at that time. I'll be up at like 10 a.m. and I'll think about you.
I'm teeing off at 8:05, so I'm getting the golf in early.
I'll be done between 9 and 9:30.
I'll still be dreaming because I'll still be sleeping. About 10, 11 a.m.
It must be nice to be young. I don't know the last time I slept till that time.
All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for Ask Us Anything. Guys, crazy hypothetical, but what would the Blues package look like to get them Tkachuk, Chychrun, and the 7th overall pick?
Oh, my God.
There isn't one.
Neighbors, Buchnevich, Dvorsky, and the 16th overall pick.
And probably Kyrie.
And probably Hofer because they want a goaltender.
Sure.
Or Binnington. Yeah, that ain't happening. You can have one of those 3.
I like your aggression, though.
You can have one of those 3.
From the 314, Alex, any interest in Patrick Laine?
Hell no. No.
Talk about a locker room problem.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, this is a guy that has now been shipped around. I think this would be the 3rd team that he gets traded to, and I know he was having some off-ice problems with the Columbus Blue Jackets last season, so I'm not trying to downplay that, but he's not what he was in his first couple of years in Winnipeg. Now he's like a 20-goal scorer, maybe 30-goal scorer. That's if he stays healthy all season, and people are complaining about Jordan Kyrou.
There are just certain players I don't want.
Yeah.
There are certain guys that I don't view as winning hockey players or winning whatever sport it is players. He's not one of them. I don't want him. I'm not interested.
If you're upset,
James Harden of hockey.
If fans are upset about Kyrie not playing defense and the lack of scoring 40 goals, you're going to be really pissed off about Patrick Laine.
From the 386, what is your favorite thing to grill, and what are you planning to grill this weekend, if anything? Alex, are you grilling this weekend?
No, so I think we're going out actually for both days, but typically it's either pork steaks or I'm big into briskets these days. They take a long time, but I'm big into doing the smoked. No, smoking it. Yeah, I don't have a grill anymore. It's a smoker.
Oh, really? You got rid of the grill?
I got rid of the grill and I just do the smoker.
I'm a charcoal grill guy. Stelter hates me.
Why?
He doesn't like charcoal grill guy.
Well, it's pointless to do a charcoal grill.
Oh, I like a charcoal grill.
You're wasting all of your time.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
You need to just turn the propane on and get that bad boy cooking.
It is nice to get it going, but I like the charcoal grill better.
I do the smoker, and that's why it's the wood pellets.
You do whatever suits you. I don't care what you do.
I think one's dumb and one's right.
Whatever makes you happy grilling-wise, cool. Do that. I like the charcoal grill. I think it's fun.
T-Bone, you're invited over, man, to have some brisket.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
That sounds good. I wish I had a smoke.
BK, I know you're having issues, so.
Yeah. I'm planning to grill a steak tonight.
What kind of steak is the real question?
I don't really know. I just bought it at Schnuck.
I'm not grilling. You know Keith won't let me grill. We're going over
Keith still won't let you grill?
Aw, man, he's not letting me touch that
you
thing.
even have his grandchild, and he won't let you grill?
Yeah. Luca is more likely to be allowed to grill as a 1-year-old on Keith's grill than I am as a 31-year-old.
It'd be great if Grandma and Grandpa had a little play grill, and they're like, here you go, Luca. And then BK's like, can I grill? No. Go back in the house.
Go play with Luca. Luca tells me no as well. It's like, all right.
Go make the potato salad.
Somebody else on the text line said, happy Father's Day, guys. Love listening to the show. Thank you.
Thank you.
How do you celebrate Father's Day, T-Bone?
I have to go get a gift for my father. That's how.
You know, you have two fathers on the show with you that you could get gifts for.
You're not my dad.
Alex, what do you want for Father's Day? Like, Kara asked me the other day, and I was like, can we just go out to dinner? This is the first Father's Day because Katie's parents are divorced, so there's two different dads we go see, and then, of course, my dad. And so this is the first Father's Day that we actually have spread it out. So we're celebrating Father's Day with my dad on Saturday, and then we're celebrating with her dad's on Sunday evening. So then I have all of Sunday. And she goes, what do you want to do? And I said, honestly, I want to cut the grass, I want to sit in the pool, and I want to take a nap. Don't buy me a gift. Just give me that. That actually makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah. I could even do that on Sunday, and I'm not a father.
There you go, man.
Well, not cut the grass. I don't think my apartment complex will get
You come over and cut mine. Then I don't have to do that. Then I could just sit in the pool and sleep.
All right, last thing here from the 314. Guys, Ken Rosenthal mentioned Alex Cora as a potential option for the Cardinals as a manager, assuming that he's not with Boston after this year. Thoughts on that potential fit? I'll say this. If Chaim Bloom is their plan to be the next president of baseball operations here in St. Louis, Alex Cora will not be an option as a manager. No chance.
Why is that, man?
Well, one of them is unemployed currently. The other is still in Boston. I think the two are related.
Yeah.
It wasn't exactly a state secret that the two didn't get along. Yeah. Like, Alex Cora wanted more power, and
he wanted to win, and Chaim Bloom was stuck in the middle.
There's
couldn't
also
figure out how to get him out of the middle.
Yeah,
I think he's gonna. I
don't think that would be a good fit.
I don't either. I think it's more likely he ends up taking a front office role than it is that he ends up being a manager somewhere next year.
He does the Brad Stevens.
Yeah.
Rosenthal mentioned the Dodgers if they fizzle out, if they move on, but even if they fizzle out, I don't think you're moving on from Dave Roberts to go to Alex Cora. That seems like a downgrade to me.
So somebody asked me about this. It was actually Josh Ennis asked me about this the other day. He said, who's the manager the Cardinals could hire that immediately comes in and has real pull?
Joe Madden.
And what I mean by that is the fan base is super energized by this proven manager, like a TLR, right? A proven manager that comes in with name recognition, gravitas. Who is that guy that they could hire? Does Alex Cora reach that level? Because he won a World Series, but I don't know that he necessarily has
I think he reaches that level, but I think people aren't. I think they're not as excited once they actually see the product with your team. I think once you put him on a roster like this, you realize that there's not much there. I think Dave Roberts would be the only one.
He's made the playoffs once in the last 6 seasons. Yeah. It's just hard for me to be that's the guy, and then every other year he's been 20 games out.
I think it's Dave Roberts would be the only one, and maybe Terry Francona, but
I don't even know. I don't
think this fan base would be super excited about Dave Roberts.
Yeah, I don't think they would either. I'm not sure how excited they'd be about Alex Cora. Because I think Cora's kind of an overrated manager. It probably would be Yachty.
Or Albert.
Yeah, Albert would have
Does
some
it
of
have to be a former Cardinal?
Probably.
Is that what we're getting at here?
Probably. Skip would get a lot of excitement. Yeah, Yachty would get it. Albert would get it. Skip would get it. I'm trying to think if there's anybody other big names that would be like Madden would get it if he got hired. I think he would.
I think there would be a certain segment of the fan base that would celebrate that, and a certain segment that would be like, really?
I think people would be excited about Cora off of name recognition of loan, but like I said, once you see it, I think you're going to feel really like wanting more at that point.
I think that's the case for any of these managers, if I'm just being totally
Well,
honest.
yeah, because if your roster sucks, the manager's not going to do anything with it.
They're a product of the roster that is at their disposal. I think a lot of them would, like the actual games, the management would feel very similar to what you're seeing right now with Ollie. But the difference would be the name, the guy that is in charge, and the bigger difference would be Mo's not the one in charge. I think people would view Ollie a lot differently if instead of Mo being the one that hired him, if it was, hey, when they fired Schilt, they cleaned house. And Mo was gone, Schilt was gone, and they hired, I don't know, whoever the next guy is. Let's call it Chaim Bloom at the time, right? Just like that's who they put in place here in St. Louis. And if Chaim Bloom then hired Ollie Marmol, I think there would be a very different feeling around what Ollie is. I think people view Ollie as a puppet of Mo, right or wrong. I don't think it's correct, but I think there was a lot with how he was hired and who hired him that immediately bled into, I don't like this guy. There's nothing he can do that makes me like him unless he goes out there and wins a World Series. And that's what it would take for a lot of Cardinals fans. All right, coming up next. Are the Cardinals being overly reliant right now on players that are expected to return from the injured list over the course of the next year? Next month, excuse me. Some interesting comments from John Mozeliak to Katie Woo that we'll dive into next year on 101 ESPN. So Katie Wu had a piece up just a little bit ago on The Athletic in a conversation she had with John Mozeliak about the roster, about the trade deadline, and about their plans between now and then. With Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Thought his comments in this, Alex, were interesting. They revealed a little bit about the Cardinals' current plan and where they see themselves. He essentially said, hey, I think this team can still win. I believe in this roster. We need to get guys back from the injured list, though, before we can really make any decisions as to what we need to be able to add to this roster. Katie writes in the article, several injured Cardinals, including Contreras, Nootbaar, Matz, Gallegos, O'Brien, and Robertson, are slated to return before June comes to a close. Edmund might not be far behind that group of 6 players. The hope is the return of those players, all of whom were pinned as impact players coming into the spring, will boost the roster heading into the All-Star break and eventually the trade deadline. Then Mozeliak and his front office can act accordingly. She then has this quote from John Mozeliak. Quote, the trade deadline is still in 6 weeks. It's 6 weeks away. Directionally, what we do or try to do between now and then, we're still open to ideas and thinking through some things. But the reality is we have to get our team back on the field, end quote. Alex, when you hear that, you read that, and that was kind of the theme of the entire piece. You should go check out the entirety of it on The Athletic. It's Katie Wu's latest piece over there with John Mozeliak. Good work by her to get this exclusive interview. Are the Cardinals too reliant right now, in your opinion, on getting guys back from the injured list?
Yes and no. I mean, I can't knock Mo for what he's saying. And I know a lot of people are frustrated with it, but I mean, in his position, I'm not going to start selling off pieces of my farm system to go upgrade if I don't know what this team looks like. We do this all the time with teams to where if you don't believe that they're a team that can really do damage, then don't make trades just to make trades. We all believe that they need to upgrade certain areas. So on one hand, I can't understand where Mo's coming from. Like, look, if I can't judge this team off of being aggressive at the trade deadline unless I know what this team actually looks like. And when Contreras, when Nootbaar is back, those are really the guys that I feel like we're talking most about. I know Edman and Matz and Gallegos are expected to be impact players, but I don't think they're to the level of what Contreras and Nootbaar are. Unless you get them back, if I'm a president of baseball operations, I'm not going to start talking about being aggressive at the trade deadline because I could get these guys back and my team still stinks. And do I really want to make moves? So on one hand, I understand that, but on the flip side of it, like you're in a position where your team is keeping their head above water. And if I'm a president of baseball operations and I'm looking at my team, what else am I supposed to be told by a roster that is depleted with injuries, that is still staying in this race? I can't sit here and say, well, I'll tell you what, guys, we'll make a decision once we get a couple of weeks away from the trade deadline, once guys are healthy. I think you have to be aggressive at some point and say, let's make a move.
Yeah, I think they're too over-reliant on this thought that when these guys get back, that it's going to make them a better baseball team. Because, first off, I'll start on the pitching side. On the pitching side, those bullpen arms of Robertson and O'Brien, I'm not even sure they're here. You know, I think they're probably in the minor leagues because of what we talked about earlier, how good this bullpen is. Gio's the only guy that's going to be here, and that's just because he doesn't have options to go down to AAA. You look at Steven Matz, he wasn't very good as a number 5 starter when he was healthy. So why should I believe that the number 5 spot suddenly is fixed? And then I look at the lineup, and Tommy Edman's been out all season long, so maybe he provides a little bit of a boost, but he's not a great offensive player. He just adds maybe a league average center fielder, which would be helpful to this team. That could be a right-handed bat against lefties. But even with Contreras and Nootbaar, when they had them in the lineup, I just went and looked to see, and Nootbaar missed the beginning of the season, but it still is telling to me that up until Contreras got hurt, they had played 35 games, and the Cardinals had the second least amount of runs scored in baseball. So that right there just tells me, okay, even when you had Contreras, even when you had Nootbaar, you still weren't scoring. You still weren't a good offensive team. And yes, I understand in the first month, Paul Goldschmidt went through an unbelievably bad stretch. Nolan Arenado wasn't hitting for power. Well, he's still not hitting for power. Yes, Paul Goldschmidt is playing better, and some of the pieces are looking better of late, but they're still one of the worst offensive teams in baseball in terms of runs scored. So their thought process of when we get Contreras and Nootbaar back, the offense is going to take off, we're going to be healthy, we're going to be ready to go along with Tommy Edman, I'm just not buying it because I haven't seen it this season from the offense as a whole. So I think they are too overly reliant on that these guys are going to come back and really prop them up. I just don't think they can fix the offense this season.
I'm glad you mentioned the offense and not the pitching, because I think that they are not overly reliant on guys coming back when it comes to the pitching side of things. If they believe that Matz is close, and it sounds like he probably needs like 2 more rehab starts to be able to get himself at a place where he can pitch at the major league level again as a starter, because he'll have the length at that point. I think they should be okay if you get Matz and at least one of Gio or O'Brien in another bullpen capacity. They'll replace Leahy on your roster. I think there's a decent chance it ends up being Gio, and they try him out at first. They put O'Brien down in AAA, and if Gio's good, if he's good to go, great. If not, eventually Gio might get DFA'd. That has to be at least in their conversations, in their thought process, and then that guy gets replaced by Riley O'Brien eventually. We're talking about the last spot in your bullpen, though. That's what we're really breaking down here, because every other guy, I don't want to remove from the roster right now, bullpen-wise.
See, my pushback, though, on the pitching would be, what your hole is, and Steven Matz isn't making that any better.
He could, though, for, another month.
I don't think you have a 2, though.
I agree, but that's what I'm talking about is, like, they're waiting to get these guys back to make a move. I don't think they need to have urgency to go get that number 2. I think it's okay to wait for the trade deadline to get that guy. You don't need to overspend to get it now. There's not necessarily a need to do that.
I agree with that, but I'm not going to learn anything about my rotation with Steven Matz coming back. I know I have a lot of dudes who are 4-5s. I got Michaelis, who when he's great, he's a 3. My problem is the 2, and Steven Matz is not making that any better.
I agree, and I think Mo probably agrees with that as well. And he's just got to find out, okay, where are we at record-wise? How much investment is worthwhile for this team? And then they'll decide, is it best for us to get a number 5 to replace Steven Matz or a number 2 to replace Steven Matz? We all know they're probably going to go somewhere in the middle, get a 4. It's probably the way that they're going to go about it.
Winning.
The lineup part, though, I think is far more compelling, because I do think they are overly reliant on getting guys back in that regard, because I don't know how much you're going to learn about them. And these are significant injuries they're coming back from, man. Like, Wilson Contreras might come back and not be the hitter that he was at the beginning of the season. And if that's the case, that's concerning. And you can't just say he's eventually going to get it back. I don't know if or when Tommy Edman is going to come back, and I certainly don't know if or when he's going to come back at 100% capacity. It'd be nice to have him as your starting center fielder right now, but I don't know if I can count on that by any stretch of the imagination. Lars Nootbaar, okay, he's going to come back, but how long for? And what version of Lars Nootbaar are we getting when he returns? I can't just automatically expect he's going to be out there ready to go and be good for us for the rest of the season if I'm in John Mozeliak's spot, because that hasn't been his history. He is somebody that is very injury prone at this point in his career. I think it's fair to label him as such. And your bench still stinks.
Yeah.
Even when you do get all of these guys back, your bench will still include Brandon Crawford and Matt Carpenter. And if we're just being totally candid, those guys are not players that you want coming in and getting significant at-bats in high-leverage situations, and that's what you're going to be asking of them potentially. So are they overly reliant on players returning from the injured list on the pitching side of things to make an urgent move? I don't think so. I think they can wait to the deadline and be able to see that thing through. On the hitting side of things, I do. I think they are overly reliant right now on guys that are coming back from the injured list.
And realistically, even when these guys come back to what you were saying, these guys aren't going to be at 100% health until probably post-trade deadline. I mean, you're talking about significant injuries to Wilson Contreras and Tommy Edman. It's going to take a few weeks to get your timing back and get back to that comfort level to where you're an impact bat. And like you said with Nootbaar, I can't rely on him being an everyday piece for me of being an impact bat because he's so inconsistent. So, I mean, I can sit here and rely upon these guys and say, well, I need to see how good the team is when they're at full health. You're not going to be at full health until most likely post-trade deadline. And when you sit on your hands that long and say, I want to see what it looks like, you end up with what typically trade deadlines look like for the Cardinals.
And we also know that even then, there's going to be somebody new that gets hurt. Like, we know how this works with baseball. When they get these guys back, somebody else is going to go on the injured list. Like yesterday, they avoided disaster with Nolan Arenado. It was totally possible that, like, they went and got x-rays for his hand when he got hit on the hand from that pitch. If that came back as he has a break in his hand, well, now he's done for the next couple of months. And especially with a hand injury like that, he might not have power the rest of the season. Like that, even if he was starting to get his swing back on track, well, that might be the thing that puts it off for the rest of the season. So it's just always something that you got to watch out for. Is you can't plan for your entire roster to be healthy the rest of the season. If that is your plan, you're going about it wrong, because it's not going to happen. Nobody in baseball right now, you look at their rosters, nobody has 100% of what they expected to coming into the season. It's just not the way that baseball works, man. So I think they're doing okay on the pitching side of things. This bullpen is legit. They are deep. They've got guys left and right that can come in basically any situation. You've got length. You've got ground ball guys. You've got strikeout guys. You've got everything. The rotation needs an upgrade, but I don't know if it's as urgent as we once felt that it was, because Andre Palante has filled in admirably for the most part. On the hitting side of things, they need bench bats. They need right-handed bench bats, and there's no way of getting around that. And I don't think that's going to change at any point in the next 6 weeks, no matter who is healthy. So that is the one place where I would disagree with John Mozeliak's characterization in a significant way. With Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Coming up in about 15 minutes or so. Yesterday, interesting decision by the Cardinals with Lance Lynn. Decided to take him out in the 5th inning because he was starting to lose it. It ended up working out. Are they utilizing him the right way right now? Was that the right call yesterday? We'll get into that in 15 minutes. NFL Quick Hitters is next here on 101 ESPN. With Alex and T-Bone on BK, got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Alex, there was another contract that was signed yesterday in the NFL, and another one that I don't think you're going to like. It was a 5-year deal worth $275 million. It has $200 million in fully guaranteed money.
Stupid.
And it went to the gentleman that goes by the name Trevor Lawrence, the quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars. We've been wondering when this was going to get done, and it is officially confirmed that he's going to be the second highest paid player in the NFL, behind only Joe Burrow. Alex, what was your reaction when you saw this news yesterday?
I mean, they had to do it because this is the franchise. That is a lot of money to give to an average quarterback. And honestly, a quarterback, and I know the rebuttal's going to be is he had a bad team around him, trending in the wrong direction. Like, you went from a really good season in 2022 to 21 touchdowns and 14 interceptions last season, where they put money into their offense. That's trending in the opposite direction of a guy that you need to win with pretty much right now before all of the money starts taking up the cap. So congrats, Jacksonville. You're going to be an average team for the rest of his career.
Man, I understand they don't have a great supporting cast around him, but 46 touchdowns, 22 interceptions over the past 2 seasons. Am I supposed to be overwhelmed by that?
No.
Am I supposed to look at that and say, that is the guy, capital D, capital T, capital G? And he's got a good coach now, at least a solid coach. Whatever you think of Doug Peterson, I think he's a solid offensive mind.
A coach.
He does.
I couldn't say that in his rookie season. His rookie season was a disaster.
Yeah.
Urban Meyer never should have been in charge of that team. The last couple of years, though, I don't know, man. I think Trevor Lawrence is fine. I think he's fine. And he goes about it in a different way than a Jared Goff. But I think he kind of he's going to end up fitting into kind of a similar spot in the range of NFL quarterbacks. He's probably the 12th to 15th best guy in the league right now, somewhere in that range. I don't want to be paying that guy $55 million a year to be a above average guy.
I think you're the third.
I think you have to, but I don't want to.
I think you're the third best team in the AFC South, and you're paying your quarterback $55 million.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
That is a massive problem, and you're never. To me,
and the question though is what do you do? Okay.
No, I know. Again, you had to do it. This is the guy you banked on.
There will come a point in time though where a team says no. A team's going to have to eventually say, this guy's not good enough for us to pay him long.
You know who it's going to have to be?
A young quarterback.
Miami.
Well, but
I don't think it
Dallas.
But I'm talking about for a young guy. A young guy that comes in and you're like, okay, we invested heavily in him. And that's part of this with Trevor Lawrence is he was the number 1 pick. He's their guy. You have built this around him. You got to keep it going, right? But we've seen it. I think Dak is going to be one of those guys. We've seen it with Kirk Cousins now. He was somebody that was good for the Minnesota Vikings, but they decided it was time to start new because he's getting older. I will be very curious to see who the first team is that says, thanks, but no thanks. We can't do the long-term $50+ million deal.
You said he's the second highest quarterback now paid? He's the 7th best quarterback, in my opinion, in the AFC.
Yeah.
And that is why you will not be a playoff team with Trevor Lawrence.
Josh Allen.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you're going Aaron Rodgers above him. Lamar.
Yep.
Joe Burrow.
Yep.
C.J. Stroud.
Yep.
Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
And
Justin
I
Herbert.
would have Justin Herbert, so he's 8th.
Oh, yeah, 8th. Okay. Yeah, 8th. I must have missed one.
So the exact midpoint.
Yeah.
The prime
and that's not
meridian
$55 million.
AFC.
And you asked, what's the biggest takeaway from this contract? I can't call it a mistake because they had to do it.
Sure.
But what it tells me is the NFL's got to get to a midpoint for these quarterback contracts. There's got to be that middle tier. And right now, it's not. Right now, it's just hey, when your contract's due, if you want to be the quarterback, guess what? You get to go right up to the top in the pay scale. They've got to establish.
But how?
It's what you're saying. It's what you're saying of teams have got to just move on from these guys.
But if they do, Trevor Lawrence would have been the highest paid quarterback in the NFL from somebody else. If the Jaguars decided not to do it, then the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Tennessee Titans or the Denver Broncos or the New York Giants or one of these other teams would have made him the highest
and
paid
that's
quarterback.
the problem.
Because they're desperate.
That's
they're
the
desperate
problem.
for hope.
Yeah.
They're desperate to believe this is the guy. The Atlanta Falcons just showed us this. I think Kirk Cousins is similar, if not maybe a little worse than Trevor Lawrence, and he's older, and he got this kind of a deal.
If you're Minnesota, and let's say the offseason played out where Jacksonville said, nope, not paying him, the money's a free agent. If I'm Minnesota, I'm probably paying that contract for Trevor Lawrence and spending my draft pick elsewhere. Because, I mean, this draft wasn't very sexy, so, I mean, that's the problem more than anything. Teams are just desperate to the point where they're not willing to say no to these guys, so there's always going to be, well, he's the next highest paid quarterback. He's the next. Tua is absolutely going to get paid this money.
I think the way that it changes, and it would be hard, but it would be a team like Jacksonville or Miami, who's going to be making Tua the highest paid quarterback here soon, probably, moves on from the quarterback, and then they find success with something else, and the other team flops by giving them the contract. That's what it takes. But I don't know who's going to be willing to do that.
There are 14 quarterbacks in the NFL making $40 million or more right now on an AAV basis. 14 of them.
And I got to be honest, he's probably lower than all of those quarterbacks.
The names are Joe Burrow, Jared Goff, Justin Herbert, Lamar, Jalen Hurts, Kyler, Deshaun.
Okay.
Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, Josh Allen, Dak Prescott, Matt Stafford, and Daniel Jones.
I think there's like three guys I would take Trevor Lawrence above.
Jones really.
Daniel Jones.
They really need a.
That is the one that they should have been the team that said, this is good, it's not good enough.
Good thing Drew Lock's the leading candidate in that clubhouse.
It's crazy. The only guys that are veterans that have signed long-term extensions that don't fit into that criteria are Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith, and technically you could add Jordan Love, but he wasn't a veteran at the time when he signed it. It was before he had started any games. So it's really just Baker Mayfield and Geno. Those are the only two guys that are in that middle tier, and they're making $33 and $25 million.
What about Derek Carr? What was he at?
He's at 30. I guess he fits into this too. 37.5. But he's right below. I mean, he's basically 40.
Okay, but like that's the conversation that Trevor Lawrence should be in.
Agreed.
And Jacksonville screwed up. Now your roster is going to be solely predicated on your quarterback, and I think your quarterback is average.
All right, so I saw somebody ask this on Twitter. I want to get your thoughts on it. If you were starting a team today, and I told you can't have Patrick Mahomes, he's ineligible for this answer. You're going with a quarterback. You're taking into account age and contract. Who are you starting that team with today, Alex?
Easy answer. C.J. Stroud. To me, by the end of this upcoming season, I think we're going to be talking about him being the second best quarterback in the NFL.
I think I'm with him. I think it's C.J. Stroud. You got him on the rookie deal.
It. We're all on the same page here.
It's easy for me.
Who would be second on that list for you? Like, if it's not C.J. Stroud, who's the next guy?
Is it weird that I would probably say Caleb Williams?
I think he's in the conversation. He was somebody that I took under consideration.
Jaden Daniels might be too.
You know who mine would be?
Jordan Love.
Nope.
Richardson.
Although I love Jordan Love.
We know
how much I enjoy him. I think he's going to be the next highest paid quarterback in the league here in the not too distant future.
Is it a Richardson?
Josh Allen. Josh Allen would be the next guy that I would go with. If I have that dude, I'm contending.
I'm contending, but I don't know if I'm getting over the top.
I mean, I've got to get over the hump of Patrick Mahomes, and so it's not easy to do that. But Josh Allen gives me the best chance to do it.
I think that this season is going to sway that answer in one way or the other.
I would have gone Joe Burrow if not for the injuries. Joe Burrow would have been my other answer, but the injuries just legitimately scare me at this point.
I do think this season people are going to side more on BK's angle with Josh Allen if he has success and we find out that Stephon Diggs really was the problem. But, man, if that team takes a massive step backwards and they're saying that this is Josh Allen's team and that's how we're going to win, everybody's jumping off of that train.
It's crazy how quickly these elite quarterbacks, their contracts become values. He is now the 11th highest paid quarterback in the NFL on a per-year basis. Patrick Mahomes is 9th. So
I can't wait for Dak Prescott to make $65 million and be average also.
Sucks as I know Stafford's getting paid soon.
Yep, it's coming.
His arm's falling off.
If your team, whoever you're a fan of, if your team has a good quarterback, forget elite. If they are good, they will very soon be making $55 million or more.
How much is Brock Purdy going to be getting paid?
$55 million.
Good God, man. Oh,
Brock Purdy is going to get the Jared Goff deal. If I'm Brock Purdy's agent, I will not settle for a penny less than what the Lions just paid Jared Goff, and that is $53 million a year, $212 million coming my way.
And if I'm San Francisco,
I'm more accomplished than that guy.
If I'm San Francisco, go take a hike. I'll find the next Brock Purdy.
Yeah, they will be interesting to see because I think his ceiling is very limited, and their pieces are going to start to A, age, and B, start to disappear. What do you do with Brock Purdy? And if there was one team that I think would try and do the formula of let's move on and try and find something else, it would be San Fran.
Can you imagine if San Fran next offseason said, oh, Dak's available? We're going to have to give Brock Purdy the contract, and we think Dak's a better player. Yeah. We'll go ahead and give it to Dak.
And I think he's a better quarterback, and anybody can work in the Shanahan system. That's where it's going to be fascinating to see what they do. I don't know what if
We
that's
would
who they go
suddenly
with.
view Dak as a winner, by the way. If Dak went to San Francisco,
'Cause
that
he'd
dude
get-
is doing a lot of winning in that system.
He'd get to a Super Bowl, man.
Yep.
He would. And that's the thing that's interesting with Purdy is Purdy can argue, hey, I'm a winning quarterback, and I've gotten you to was it 2 Super Bowls or at least 2 NFC
Purdy's
Championship
good.
games?
He's a good player.
Yeah, but he's
Nothing
not
better.
Like you put him on Jacksonville. Jacksonville has a below 500 record than like what Lawrence is.
That is Tanner Hendrickson. He's Alex Ferrario, and I'm Brandon Kiley. Coming up in 15 minutes, we're diving into the junk drawer. But next, are the Cardinals utilizing Lance Lynn the way that he should be? Yesterday, didn't even get through 5 innings, partly due to his own making, and partly due to a managerial decision to pull him out of the game. We'll let you hear what Ollie Marmol had to say about that decision after the game yesterday, and give you some of our thoughts on the Lance Lynn experience so far. Coming up next here on 101 ESPN.
Tara Hendricks near the Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Cardinals beat the Pirates yesterday 4-3 as they take 2 of 3 from Pittsburgh, and they start a 3-game set at the Chicago Cubs here in just about 40 minutes. 1:20 will be first pitch. Kyle Gibson will be on the mound for the St. Louis Cardinals. And tonight here on 101 ESPN, Game 4 of the NBA Finals as the Boston Celtics look to sweep the Dallas Mavericks. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 6:30. This Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
So the Cardinals had an interesting decision yesterday, Alex. They're in the 5th inning. Lance Lynn is on the mound. He walks the leadoff hitter. Then there's a single. Then there's another walk. He's got the bases loaded. Gets a swinging strikeout, and then Reynolds hits an infield single that ends up literally hitting Lance Lynn. He ends up scoring a run on that. Everybody's safe. And so now you have the bases loaded with just the one out, and you've got to find a way to get out of this thing. What do you do? That was the decision that was faced with Ollie Marmol yesterday. And his decision was to pull Lance Lynn in that spot. He decided, you know what? It's best for us to go to the bullpen to try to get Cruz out, a lefty, with our left-handed pitcher in John King. It didn't work. He ended up hitting an RBI single in that spot, and they have to get out of it on the next at-bat. Olivares ends up grounding into a double play. It's a tie ball game. At the time, when they pulled Lance Lynn, they were up 3-1. They end up leaving the inning tied 3-3. Here's what Ollie Marmol said after the game about that decision.
It worked out, and our pen did a nice job. If I'm being completely honest, I wish I would have let him work through it and see what that looked like. I feel like he could have walked off the mound himself with the score still in our favor, but I don't mind the matchup of a high ground ball guy and King trying to get the double play against Cruz there. But that's a spot where there's an argument for letting him work through it.
I think it was smart. I think they're handling Lance Lynn the right way, Alex. I know people immediately, when they signed Lance Lynn, they were like, innings eater, innings eater. No, Kyle Gibson's the innings eater. Lance Lynn is the guy that gives you a 5 and dive. Lance Lynn is a prototypical 5 and dive pitcher at this point. The problem for the Cardinals is the last 3 starts, he hasn't been able to get through 5. He's got 4, 4, and 4 1/3. So that's frustrating. But in his last 5 starts, Alex, Lance Lynn quietly has a 2.96 ERA. Opposing hitters are batting .211 against him. He has given the Cardinals quality even while he's not giving them quantity of innings. So yesterday, he clearly had lost it, and we've seen this from him in the past where suddenly it blows up in an inning. Don't allow that to happen. Go to your bullpen, which has been really good this season. Get out of the inning. Go to the lefty-lefty matchup. Try to get that ground ball double play. It didn't work, but it was the right call in my opinion. I think that he's managing Lance Lynn the correct way, even if it results in him not giving you as much depth as many were hoping for or expecting from him this season.
Yeah, I mean, I can't deny that because you're finding ways to have success with it. You're managing him the right way, but he's not the player that you signed him to be. And I understand that they are having success, but like you said, he was a 5 and dive guy that you were hoping for. In these last 3, you haven't even gotten to that point. And the part that you signed him and you paid him $13 or $11 million, $12 million, I think it was, to be that 5 and dive guy. And again, you're having success with it right now, but I just feel like that you could have probably spent that money for somebody with more upside in the offseason.
Maybe, but were they going to be able to give you the starts? Because we talked to Michael Gersh on opening day, and he said, I think people have made a little too much about the innings eaters. It's about starts. They needed guys that could come in and they could count on to start game 1 all the way to game 162. Because we've seen it with Steven Matz going down. I think what he said makes even more sense. Yeah. They don't have depth, dude. Imagine if they had signed that upside starter that you're talking about. Maybe it's a Luis Severino, somebody like that, who similar in terms of the range of contracts that they were looking for, went into the offseason. One has upside, the other has more certainty. And the Cardinals were clearly shopping in the certainty basket this offseason. Now, Severino's been good, but let's say that it could have gone this way, it went the other direction. He gives you two or three really good starts and then goes on the IL. So now you've got Steven Matz and Luis Severino on the injured list, and you're trying to replace 2 spots in your rotation right now with guys from your minor leagues. I don't think the Cardinals could have handled that. You would have probably Matthew Liberatore and Andre Palante starting games for you right now. That'd be a disaster, dude. So I understand that this is not the quantity of innings that people were expecting from Lance Lynn. Last year, 17 of his 32 starts went at least 6 innings. He's not going to get there this year, most likely. It's just not going to be the number of innings that we all had hoped. Him starting 30 games is what they need. That is the number one priority for them this season. I know, yes, that is absolutely lowering the bar to clear. I get it, Cardinals fans. I'm not telling you that you should settle for this or that you should have been happy about this, but this is what they needed, clearly, because they screwed up so badly with their talent pipeline through the minor league system that they needed a guy that could go out there and they could count on to get 32 starts. That's what Lance Lynn has given them so far this season.
Yeah. And that's why I can't deny it. I mean, he's giving them what they need right now.
Yeah, he's giving them what they need, and you can get away with him being the 5 and dive guy as long as those innings eaters are Sonny Gray, Kyle Gibson, Miles Michaelis. I mean, why were they set up so well to where they could just deploy the bullpen at will yesterday and not have to worry about, oh, should we stick with Lance Lynn here, see if he can wiggle out of this? It's because they got 4 quality starts in a row. And because of that, you've got a fresher pen.
Great point.
You can go to those guys. You don't really care about the 5 and dive. Where you will start to get in trouble with the 5 and dive, or in this case, the 4 and dive from Lance Lynn, is if Sonny Gray doesn't eat his innings, if Miles Michaelis doesn't, if Kyle Gibson has like a blow-up game for some reason, that's when you start to see the trickle-down effect. And that's why yesterday was such a success, was because the bullpen's fresher, because the other guys did their job on turn.
You saw yesterday the value of Sonny Gray giving you innings.
Yeah.
That's what it was, because Sonny Gray gave you 7 instead of 5, 5 1/3, whatever it's been recently. And so then all you have to use is Kittredge and Helsley, boom, close out the game. Yeah, Helsley's unavailable because he had gone out there 2 straight days, but otherwise your entire bullpen was essentially available to you yesterday. And the other thing that we talked about in the Open that has changed from previous seasons, I trust the guys that they're going to. I trust John King to get out of that spot. No, there's not a lot of swing and miss there, but he's going to be on the ground, and you've got a really good infield defense right now for the most part. Chris Roycroft, dude, this guy's awesome.
High leverage arm.
He's throwing 98. He is big as hell, and he's got a wipeout slider. Like, I trust that guy. Ryan Fernandez, hot damn, dude, he started chewing gum, and he's striking out the side. Like, I don't know where this came from, but all right, I'm here for it. You look at the ERAs of the pitchers that were out there for them yesterday in the bullpen. 1.5, 3.1, 2.6, 3.6, and that 3.6 is Andrew freaking Kittredge, who's been awesome for the entirety of this season.
That is actually his middle name.
And I didn't mention Matthew Liberatore, whose ERA is inflated because he had to start a few games, but on the season it's still a 4.3, despite being a bad starter for them for a couple of weeks. So I think that's a part of this as well. Sonny Gray giving them 7, big part of it. The bullpen having more arms that you can go to that you trust, big part of that. I thought it was the right call yesterday. I know Ollie second-guessed it, but I thought it was the right decision. There's one other thing that Ollie said post-game that I want to get to here, Alex. T-Bone mentioned this before the show. The Cardinals are winning a bunch of close games. They're playing a bunch of close games, but they're also winning a lot of them. Here's what Ollie Marmol had to say about the value of that yesterday.
It makes you better for when it matters. I mean, you think about all the games we've played, and they are a lot of 1, 2, 3-run ball games. And, I mean, we're up there in the league, either first or second, in doing that. But it allows you to learn how to play in close games. And when you go down the stretch, that's what matters. And your ability as a team to not panic when you're down 1 or down 2, or you have to hold a 1-run lead from the 5th inning on, I think it does build character. And I think we will benefit from that here over the next several months.
Alex, what do you make of the Cardinals and their ability to win these games that are close? So far this year, the Cardinals on the season have played 48 3-run games. So it decided by 3 runs, one way or the other, win or loss. Only Chicago has played more close games so far this year. They are on the season 26-22 when the game is decided by 3 runs or fewer. What do you make of that?
I agree with them. I think those are really good weapons to have in your arsenal. 1, the ability to come from behind, and 2, hold on to leads. I think those are 2 weapons that are desperate to teams that want to have success in September and October. So he's right there. I just personally believe the Cardinals have relied too much on that, and they don't have the ability to just blow out an opponent. They've relied all season on those 1-run games or when they're down because their offense isn't hitting, that they've had to come from behind. And as great as of a weapon as that is, it's also exhausting to play for 6 months. And by the time you get to September, if you've been unable to use the let's blow out the opponent here and not have to use these certain guys and give them a couple of days off, Those guys are going to be exhausted to that point, and you're higher possibility of breaking once you get deeper into the season. So it's a great weapon to have, but man, that could bite you also.
And the Cardinals' 48 games decided, T-Bone, I want to hear your thoughts on this, decided by 3 runs or fewer. The Cardinals have had a slugging percentage in those individual games above 400, which is not a high bar to clear, guys. Slugging percentage above 415 of them. That's the thing. They're not slugging their way through these games that are close. And that's why they're playing so many of them. Yes, I do agree with Ollie. This could pay dividends down the road. It's frustrating to watch, though, man, because the downside of it is you're having to use your high leverage arms all the time, and every inning feels like a stress inning. Every single one of them. You're never just watching a Cardinals game and able to do stuff on the side. You're always like, damn, this could be the inning that it gets away from them, because they're always close late in games. So.
And that's kind of where I was going to go. Was it's weird because, like, yes, I do think this is inherently a good thing. You know, like I do think teams need to have some sort of adversity, that is, whether it be playing close games or having to come from behind. You need that kind of lesson to learn in the regular season for the postseason. The weird thing is like, I feel really good about that bullpen when it comes to these close games, both whether it is you got to use the lower leverage arms like they did yesterday to bridge your way to the high leverage arm in Kittredge. But the weird thing is like, I don't feel good about the offense in the close games, you know? And it's not so much that they're not blowing people out. It's the runners in scoring position. You know, they seem to like short circuit when they've got a chance to have somebody on where, okay, second and third, we're down by 2. Do the Cardinals come through? Half the time I'm sitting down watching the Cardinal game going, crap, here we go again. We're going to blow another opportunity.
It always feels like Siani or Pajes, like those guys that are at the bottom of the order, Crawford. It always feels like the guys at the bottom of the order are the ones that are coming up in those really high leverage situations. And it's either go to them or go to your bench, and I don't feel comfortable with either of those options. Yeah. So that's
when it was tied yesterday, I'm like, oh, cool. So this one's going to get decided in the 10th inning, because I didn't expect the Cardinals to score any more runs.
And they found a way. They found a way to be able to
single them to death.
No, we homered yesterday. One was a wall scraper. One was a wall scraper.
That's what I did in softball.
Brendan Donovan, by the way, heating up.
He's looked a lot better of late.
Brendan Donovan is a winning baseball player, and if you just give him a little bit of time over the course of the season, he's going to put up some numbers that you're really confident in.
Hell yeah.
Guess that was a T-Bone 3 also, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't actually. No, I'm telling you, the T-Bone 3 might go 3 for 3 this year.
I think he might hit 15 home runs this year.
Donnie? What's he at right now? Yeah, and I think I saw his hard hit rates up again.
Got almost 100 games remaining in the season. He's on pace right now for 12. I could see him getting up to 15 as it continues heating up.
Sounds like a World Series contender to me.
Yeah.
All that offense.
He's got 15. Newt's got 15.
Gorman's got 40. Wow. Goldie's heating
got
up.
40.
Goldie's up to 8, by the way.
Put that damn conductor hat on. World Series, baby.
He might end up getting to 25 this year.
Yeah, Goldie is like secretly starting to slug. And nobody's talking about it because, again, he gets roped in with Arenado, but Goldie's been really good of late.
Wait till it starts to cool down. Just when it matters most.
Nolan Arenado is still tied with Wilson Contreras on 6.
How long has it been since Contreras last played a baseball?
The end of May.
Contreras played 31 games, and Arenado's played in 65. Contreras had 107 at-bats. Arenado has 250. It's not what you want, man. It's not what you want. Coming up next, the Jump Drawer here on 101 ESPN. Alex, I got some questions about what's going on in Needham, Massachusetts.
Probably nothing. I've never heard of
They had their
it.
middle school graduation last week, and 10% of the 8th grade class was made up with twins. Yes, you heard that correctly. They had 23 sets of twins that graduated from an individual middle school in Massachusetts. Now, if you got a few sets of twins, I don't know how many twins you guys went to school. T-Bone went to school with 5 other people.
If you got a few
There was
sets,
one set of twins in mine.
if you got a few sets of twins, you got the Brady Bunch. So good
Well, I'm
luck.
talking about in a school. Like if you got a few
I
sets
thought
of
you meant in a
twins,
family.
that makes sense.
Like I think I would stop after the first set of twins.
What's going on in Needham, Massachusetts, where they've got 23 sets of twins in one community
insane.
for one graduating class? So they're all the same age.
I'm sorry, but
There's something up there. We need a research project.
I
into
would
this.
never go to Needham, Massachusetts, because that's like Children of the Corn stuff.
I don't
Like they only
understand.
breed twins, and it's creepy.
I've never heard of something that, like, I've heard of like a group of twins. That's more than a group of twins.
They have 450
insane.
kids in their class.
That's wild.
So they had 46 twins as part of that group of 450 kids that graduated
That's
in the 8th grade.
10% of the class.
It's
Holy cow.
insane, dude. Can you imagine like 10% of the people walking around day to day in your graduating class? And that's a big class, 450 kids. 10% of them are brothers and sisters.
Here's a real question.
And they look like one another.
I was saying, how
That's
many are
10% of the
identical?
class in which you have to just guess and hope that you get it right.
That's got to suck to be the teacher.
It doesn't say specifically how many of them are identical or fraternal, but I would imagine there's a pretty decent mix.
have-
Everybody has to wear a name tag in that school.
They should.
Everybody wears
They
a name
should.
tag. Or you're Michael Scott and you're putting permanent marker on them to try and make sure you know
Those
who's who.
teachers have to be infuriated because
That
I'm
sucks.
sure there are some, like Kara mentioned, my wife, she has a twin. In high school, at one point, they switched classes just to see if they could play a trick on their teacher. And the
Did it
trick was
work?
on them. Well, it did work. Unfortunately, they had a pop quiz in one of their classes that day. So Christy, Kara's sister, ended up having to go get Kara and be like, hey,
Oh, that
you need
sucks.
to go back to your class. I'm not taking
That's
this
a
quiz.
fun story. That's how Vince Dunn became a defenseman. Him and his brother are twins, and they were on the same junior team, and the coach mistook Vince Dunn, terrible language by me.
Go ahead, bud.
Vince Dunn
Keep going, man. Power
was
through.
supposed to be his brother, and his brother played defense, and his coach didn't know the two from each other, and so Vince Dunn got placed in the defense group.
There was only one set of twins in my class. I don't know. There's probably were others that were in like my high school, for example, but there was one set in my class. I never knew which one was which.
Really?
I always get. I had to.
Never talked to him.
Not enough to know. I'd go, are you Tori? No, I'm I don't
that's
remember what the other
awkward.
one was. I was like, ah, damn. All right,
Never
we won't
had-
talk for a month.
Never had twins in my class, and like any level of education.
We didn't have. I don't recall any twins in my graduating class, and we had I graduated with 600 kids, so
In eighth grade, I graduated with 9. So
9 kids.
Yeah, there was 9 kids, including myself.
Did you go to a Catholic?
No, it was a
small-
Lutheran school. It was a parochial school, but yeah, there were 9 kids. And then I went from 8th grade graduation with 9 kids, and I graduated Fox, and I had like 750 kids. It was
I don't
weird.
think we had 200 in my class.
You had 200. I'm
I
actually
don't think we
surprised it was
did.
that big.
I don't think we
In
did.
high school or
High school.
in
yeah.
grade school?
Well, yeah, all the above.
Yeah.
Like, I think we it was like 180
grade school was a small
probably.
school. And then once I got to high school, I'm like, whoa, this is
Fox
different.
is one of the bigger ones in the
Yeah.
area, isn't it?
Yeah. And no twins.
No twin. Well, I mean, probably. I didn't talk to a lot of people in high school. This might surprise you. I had my small group of friends, and that was about
Did you
it.
feel like you went
I mean,
to
I
a
had a-
smaller school by going to Lindenwood than by being at Fox, or similar at least?
No, Lindenwood always felt pretty big to
Okay.
me. Yeah, Lindenwood always kind of
Boy.
felt big. Lindenwood felt bigger than Fox, and Fox was big.
It's telling me because I went from Olney, Illinois to Lewis Clark. I was like, whoa, this place. Wow.
T-Bone thought he was at Duke. He's like, whoa.
And then when I toured University of Illinois, I was like, oh my God, this is like a spaceship.
Lindenwood, 5,800 was their.
Yeah, that
enrollment?
always felt big.
That's like half the size of my hometown. My hometown's 10,000.
But
That's
again,
unbelievable.
at college, there was not a lot of socializing because I think I was broadcasting almost every other night. And if I wasn't, I was doing my internships with the Blues like the moment I got to college. So
Broadcasting or going to Six Flags and throwing up on the girl that you went with. That's a story
yeah,
for
I did
another day.
that.
Coming up next.
I told that story, didn't I?
Does baseball have a difficult product to sell right now? We'll talk about it here on 101 ESPN. Baseball is a tough product to sell right now. Offense not exactly living up to the hype right now.
Are you seeing this National League playoff race?
Yeah, even the
It's incredible. Everybody's in it.
The Atlanta Braves, who currently maintain the top wild card spot, they have one player on their team that is 20% above league average offensively so far this season.
Now you're just cherry picking.
They have one guy on their team with an OPS over 800. It's Marcell Ozuna, who has an OPS of 1,000, by the way, so far this year. He's been unbelievable offensively, but nobody else on their roster is hitting, and they are the fourth best team in the National League right now. It's crazy what is happening. So you look around the league, and we think about this as a Cardinals problem, right? I heard the Fast Lane talk about this the other day. Is what we're watching with the Cardinals, is this, are we frustrated because it's a Cardinals problem, or is it a baseball problem? I think it's a little bit of both. But the bigger problem Major League Baseball has right now in terms of selling its product is that it's not a very good product league-wide. So I was mentioning this off air to Tanner, and Alex wasn't listening, so we'll go ahead and do it on air.
I'll listen now. I just prefer not to listen to you for 3 minutes.
Alex, I just put this together. If you look at individual seasons by a team, like the team OPS dating back to 2016, the best team OPS since 2016 is the 2019 Astros because, of course, at 848. Okay? They have the best individual season by any individual team in OPS.
Okay.
This year, the best team in Major League Baseball in OPS is the LA Dodgers. Surprise, surprise, once again. Where do you think they rank on that list of the best team OPSs in any individual season since 2016? So the last 8 seasons. Where do you think the Dodgers would rank?
Bottom 10.
My guess 20 to 25 range.
Okay. Alex didn't understand the game.
No, I didn't.
40th. They are 40th. There have been 39 teams.
Okay, so bottom 10. I nailed it.
Since 2016 that are better offensively than the best team from 2024. Offense stinks, guys. Across the league, nobody is hitting. I saw this the other day. Reynaldo Lopez, the relief pitcher that the Braves made into a starter. Have you guys seen his ERA on the season?
Super low, I know.
It's like 1.7 as a starter so far this year. And you're seeing this all over the place. Starting pitching is just so far ahead of anything that these teams are doing offensively. It is crazy. Alex, are you enjoying watching this product right now?
No. God, no, I'm not enjoying this product.
The league average for OPS has dropped below 700, by the way.
T-Bone mentioned, like, he loves old school pitching matchups, and I agree. Like, watching Paul Skeens and Miles Michaelis go head-to-head was very fun. But there's a difference of watching pitching matchups where it's great offense that are getting shut down than watching two crappy offenses that can't hit either good pitching or mediocre pitching.
I think that was a legitimately good match.
That one was. And I give props to Miles Michaelis because he pitched really well. But I also understand that the Pirates offense sucks. The Cardinals offense has been really bad this season. It's not fun. It's not fun.
This is the worst season for league-wide average OPS since 1989. In the last 35 seasons, we have not seen an OPS this low. It's now down to 699. Prior to this, you had to go back to like 2014. It was right around 700. The hope is that as it starts to heat up again, as the injuries continue to pile up, you'll see some more hitting offensively. But, dude, what we have seen so far this year, this is a bad product. It's just bad baseball that we're watching across Major League Baseball. And this is not just a reflection of the standings. It's offense. The league needs more offense. And I wonder why it's happening. Because you can't just explain it by saying, well, look at the sliders, look at the pitching. Yeah, but that's been the case for a while now. What happened this year that puts us in this spot? I genuinely don't know the explanation. Maybe it's pitchers adjusted to the pitch clock. Maybe it's pitchers adjusted to the lack of a shift, and so you're going back to that. I wouldn't think that it would be this significant in terms of how much that would set things back offensively, but it is weird to see it go this far in this direction.
Yeah, and I would think it'd be better because like you've got the shift that was banned, and you saw the uptick last year. You know, it's not like you didn't see an effect of that last year. You did in a positive way for hitters, and somehow it's regressed back to the norm. And I think, I don't know, I thought it was you that told me this, BK, the league-wide teams are now hitting the sweeper better than they did a couple of years ago. They're not whiffing as much. So that, I would think, doesn't make much sense. I don't know. I do agree that the product is bad. I do enjoy a good old-school pitching matchup, like when you've got, like, two aces that take the mound. But I shouldn't be able to, like, look at Jordan Wicks or whatever his name is that's starting for the Cubs today and see him throw 6 innings and have a quality start. Like, that shouldn't be the case. I don't know what it is, but the product itself is not good. And it's leading to this NL, I say race in air quotes, for the wild card spot where you've got all these teams below 500. It's just not a good product. It's why I just don't buy into the Cardinals. I don't like watching below 500 baseball teams. And the part that is just so unfathomable is all the stars that you expect in the game. Like when I say a baseball team, you would typically say for Arizona, who's someone you would name for the Arizona Diamondbacks? You'd say Corbin Carroll. Yep. He's terrible this year. I say the Chicago Cubs, you'd go Cody Bellinger. He hasn't played well this year. I say the Cardinals, you'd say Nolan Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt. Nolan Arenado has not played well this year. Goldie has now started to get things figured out. It's just bad, and it's a bad product when your superstars themselves offensively are really struggling.
Yeah, I can't explain it, and a lot of people on the text line are saying, guys, it's very simple. They're messing with the baseball again. Like that's clearly what's happening here. And it's entirely possible that ends up being the explanation for this. Maybe they dead end the ball, and that could help to explain some of the issues for Nolan Arenado, for example. Like if you're a severe fly ball pull hitter and the ball has changed and you're playing in a ballpark at home where it suppresses home run power for right-handed hitters in general, and you've entirely, like, your game is driven towards this one thing, and the ball makes it harder to do that. I could see how it would result in him not being the same player that he once was, but I don't know.
I don't think that's the case. I haven't heard a single baseball player complain about the baseball yet. And every year that happens. Yep, every year fair. It is like the pitchers, like when offense really took off and it was like the home run ball really skyrocketed. What did you hear? You hear pitchers complaining, the baseball feels different, the seams are different. Surely we would be hearing player complaints publicly, not just privately where reporters say, according to sources. No, but you would hear players complaining about it, and I don't see that, so I don't think that's the case.
Somebody else on the text line said, guys, could this have something to do with analytics? You've got to wait for this. You've got to pitch to that. You've got to don't swing at this, not swing on that. Another person said, guys, it's a product of analytics. Everybody is so home run happy that has been the direction league wide. I would have thought that would have happened over the last few seasons as well. If analytics were the driving force behind this, and maybe it is just a combination of a bunch of different stuff, and analytics is one piece of that. It's possible. I'm open to any theory right now because of how much we have seen offense nosedive in 2024. But if it was analytics that was driving this bus and going off of the cliff offensively, that should have shown up at some point over the last few seasons as well. Because it's not like analytics just showed up overnight and they were like, 2024, this is the year that analytics ruined the game. No, I think a lot of people have seen analytics being implemented for the better part of the last 15 years.
And again, I think we'd hear players talking about that too, if that was a problem of there's too much of don't swing at certain pitches and needs to be more free flinging from the plate. I feel like we'd be hearing somebody complain about it if that was the case.
Somebody else said, guys, how do you explain the Yankees this year offensively? I mean,
Aaron Judge and Juan Soto.
Yeah, look at the guys that are producing for them.
In their ballpark.
It really helps when you have two guys that are putting up special seasons the way that Judge and Soto are. I mean, we're going to look back and we may, if they continue doing what they're doing, both of them right now are hitting at least 300 with an OPS above 1,000. If they continue on that pace, it will go down as one of the best 1-2 seasons that we've ever seen in the history of the sport. Like that is, and it could happen in two different spots, there and in LA. It's pretty remarkable what those two teams, but the third best OPS on their team is Giancarlo Stanton this year at 770. There's a massive gap, so their numbers are being boosted by the fact that they have two Hall of Fame level producers in the middle of their order that are hitting as well as they ever have at any point in their major league career. So that's how I would explain the Yankees, and how you explain the Dodgers is look at the middle of their lineup as well. It's being boosted by those future Hall of Famers. Elsewhere, guys just aren't doing that. I can't explain it. I don't understand it, and it's making the game harder to watch. I like watching good pitching. I don't like watching guys that are overmatched by relievers I've never heard of. That is not good for the game overall. And seeing a lack of offense, a lack of action, it's not even necessarily the strikeouts. It's just batted balls that aren't dropping for hits this year. It's not good for anybody. And I will be curious to see as we continue along here if this is a trend and not just a blip, if we end up seeing some kind of an explanation that comes out midway through the season as to why this is happening across the sport. Coming up in 15 minutes, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for One's Gotta Go. You give us four options. We'll tell you which one's got to go here on BK and Ferrario. But next, Vladimir Tarasenko sure seems to be finding himself a late career NHL role. Could David Perron have a similar role here with the Blues next season? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN. With Alex and T-Bone on BK, Vladimir Tarasenko seems to have found his late career role in the NHL, Alex. Last night, he ended up scoring a goal for the Florida Panthers. He is the guy that contenders are going to trade for at the deadline. This is who he is. He's going to consistently be we need to add a little bit of scoring punch to our middle six. Who's out there? Who's available for us that we can get on a reasonable deal that's not going to cost us an arm and a leg to add to our roster? The answer is always going to be Vladimir Tarasenko. That seems to be where he's at. Alex, what is it like for you as somebody that was a lifelong Blues fan and saw the beginning of Vladimir Tarasenko's career, and then you saw it crescendo with him hoisting the cup in 2019, all of the buy-in, the front of the video game cover? Like, what's it like for you to see this period of Vladimir Tarasenko's career as a Blues fan?
I mean, it's pretty cool to see him go on and have another shot at a Stanley Cup. I know people don't like it when former Blues go on and win because, wishing it was still with your team.
I feel like it's different with Vladdy.
I feel like that too. And I feel like it ended the perfect way with Vladdy here in St. Louis, to the point where everyone was so upset, but then he backed that up with a 40-goal performance, and then it came down to him being traded, and then you got a first-round pick in return because the team was trending in the right direction. It's kind of the perfect crescendo to his career in St. Louis, and honestly, it feels like it's going to end the right way with Vladimir Tarasenko because of how he's gone on to have success, but it hasn't been like he's gone on to be a superstar elsewhere. He's gone on to be a really good role player. You saw the best years of Vladimir Tarasenko in St. Louis. Honestly, and they're not the same players, so do not get me wrong here, but it feels a lot like how the Albert Pujols story felt in St. Louis for the Cardinals. You got all of the best years of Albert, so when he went on to have success elsewhere, it didn't sting as bad as
he also never got a playoff win elsewhere, though.
Very true. Very true. But because you saw Vladdy being the star he was here, and he's never really gone on to be the star for the Rangers or even with the Panthers, I think that makes it a lot sweeter for Blues fans.
I think it's kind of cool. I'm enjoying this, and I think it's cool that he has seemingly accepted this role. And I think that's something that for a long time was hard for Vladdy, was to accept a role of, like, I'm not the superstar on this team. And now I think he's gotten to a place. I mean, he had to settle for signing with Ottawa this past offseason.
That's where I think it hit him, that I need to change who I am.
And when you have to do that as a player, and you just have to eat it, and you're like, okay, I guess this is where I'm at. You can go one of two different ways. You can sulk and not be happy in your role and not be happy that you have to sign with what is, in most people's eyes, a non-contender. Or you can go out there and play well and get to a place where, hey, I'm at the deadline, and now I'm going to be in a spot where other teams want me. Mm-hmm. Like, it's kind of the Tommy Pham, honestly. He would be probably, it's different because Tommy Pham wasn't a star the way that Vladimir Tarasenko was. But Pham in his late career has been able to carve out this role of, hey, teams at the deadline that are contending, they're going to trade for me no matter who I sign with at the beginning of the year because I'm going to produce. And teams will see it, and they'll say, we need a right-handed bat. Who can we bring in that can fill that role? Answer's Tommy Pham. Vladdy's kind of become that guy in the NHL. And it's cool to see him doing it with the Florida Panthers and being a guy that, man, they've needed him in this postseason. He's come up with some big-time goals. Now, yesterday, yeah, he's just standing in front of the net, so it's not like that was some superstar-level play, but he's standing in front of the net.
Yeah.
He's buying into the stuff that for a lot of his career wasn't necessarily front of mind for Vladimir Tarasenko. So I've really enjoyed seeing this version of him.
At this point in careers for guys, you have to become a role player if you want to win a cup. Some guys want to go on and still be the star elsewhere, and that's why you don't see a lot of cups for guys that go elsewhere, because they want to still be the number one guy. I think after that New York Rangers series, to where he was traded and had an opportunity to be the guy, number one power play with their stars, and it didn't work out in the playoffs, I think the moment he got to Ottawa, he realized that now we're in the veteran stage of my career. And it is really reminiscent of Vladdy, going back to when he was a rookie, to him playing with all of those guys where he was the rookie and the veterans took him under the wing. Ottawa was I have to be a role player. I'm not the number one guy. And then once he got to Florida, when he realized that there was a legit shot at a Stanley Cup, that's when you fully engulf yourself into, cool, I'll do whatever we need this team to do to win.
What do you think is next for him? Like, has he's 30, he'll be 33 years old next year. Has he proven enough with this Florida Panthers team and with this run that they've been able to go on and what he has contributed towards it, that a contender would sign him this offseason and say, okay, let's slot him in on like a 3-year deal, few $1 million to be our third line winger over the next few years? Or do you think he's going to have to do what he did this year again, where he goes to a non-contender, signs for a little bit, a 1-year deal, and then somebody else trades for him at the deadline?
I think it depends on what Vladdy wants. If I'm honest with it, I think Florida probably re-signs him. He wants to be in Florida.
He's wanted to be.
He's wanted to be in Florida for a long time. That's where he works out in the off seasons, where a lot of those guys work out in the off season. And Florida's going to have to move out guys and put younger guys into different roles so that they can have cap space and re-sign certain players. If I've got a guy who's 33 who has been good for me and is a perfect second, third line player that can play up and down the lineup, I'll re-sign him, and he'll probably sign for less. So Vladdy might have found the perfect spot to where he could play the final few years of his career and then call it a career. If you're him, there's no point in going to another non-contender to get all of the money. You've gotten the money. Now you stick with the team that you can win multiple championships with.
So another guy that I'm going to be curious about this offseason, and we talked about him a little bit yesterday, and Alex had the benefit of being able to literally talk to him yesterday on the Last Minute Blues podcast with Jeremy Rutherford and Donnie Fandango. The guys were able to talk with David Perron. Former Blues forward, Stanley Cup champion. They did this to continue celebrating We Went Blues Day. If you want to listen to that entire conversation, you can check it out right now. 101 ESPN app, the 101ESPN.com website, or you can check it out on YouTube because he joined them via Zoom. He was on video with the guys. YouTube.com/101ESPN STL is where you can go to find the full interview with David Perron. You guys asked David Perron about how it ended in St. Louis. I thought he gave an interesting response. Here is Perron's answer to that.
Management, Doug, Tom Stillman, I am not even close to being here. I'm not even close to anywhere having a chance to keep playing at my age. These guys, everybody would push me in the right areas. And, I don't know, I'm going to try and look forward. It is one of the harder times. I'm never going to shy away from that. I'm not changing any of the story, anything I said, it's what I said, and that's what happened. But at the same time, it's a career. The decision was made. It is what it is. And I'm just so proud that I was able to play for the Blues all these years, win the Cup with them, and who knows what happens in the future.
Perron was not the same player this year as he was the year prior, Alex. He had a down season by his standards, 17 goals, 47 points. Still pretty productive, though.
Very productive.
For a guy that's a third-line winger, puck possession, good leader, brings all of the off-ice stuff that you could possibly ask for, 36 years old for next season. We've asked this a million different ways, but we'll ask it one more time because you were able to talk with him yesterday. Would you consider bringing him back?
I would. I really would. And do yourself a favor and listen to the full thing, because just listening to him talk, one, about the team in 2019 and what worked, but then when we were talking to him about how it ended in St. Louis, and he was just talking about how he's looked forward and how he's taken on a leadership role with Detroit and how he sees a lot of the Blues in Detroit. It's just like you're talking to a guy who's at the end of his career and wants to be a part of something special before he calls it. And you know how much the city of St. Louis, the team, means to him. He's got a leadership role in his mind, and I think that's why Detroit wants him so bad. And where this Blues team is at, you're not asking him to come here and be a top-line player. You're not asking him to be a 30-goal scorer. You're asking him to instill the culture that was here for the longest time with this group of players. I think if you were to give truth serum to Doug Armstrong, you'd probably look at that as, I'd go back and change things a little bit different with David Perron, because that's a player that I think could have limited the downside over these last couple of seasons for the Blues. I don't think he's going to be asking for a lot of money. I don't think he's going to be asking for a long-term contract. I would seriously look at bringing back a David Perron, because he's the embodiment of what you want this team to take the step forwards with. And it's no coincidence you've got a Steenan role that's going to be taking over sooner or later. Perron seems like the guy that you'd want for the final couple years of his career. I also don't think Perron would. I think Perron is more likely to end up in Toronto.
Interesting.
He talked a lot about how impactful Craig Berube was in his career, and that makes a ton of sense. But if he's standing there and the music's about to stop with all of the chairs taken up at free agency, man, I would seriously look at that and say, let's just bring it back for one more. Let's bring it back for one more round with David Perron, and this can be your final call.
I think it all comes down to, do you trade Buchnevich this offseason? Because if you don't, your top 9 forwards are probably pretty much set. Neighbors, Thomas Kyrou, Saad, Dvorsky, Booch, Shin, Hayes, Bolduc. Those are probably your top 9.
If you wouldn't have traded for Hayes, Perron's the perfect person to give the Hayes money to in that spot.
Fair. Or if you get rid of Hayes this offseason, if you decide to either buy him out or trade him elsewhere, that's another move that could make a spot come open for this. But if you do trade Buchnevich, you've got that third line role, Alex, where he could play with, maybe it's Shin and Bolduc, Shin with Perron and Bolduc. That makes a lot of sense. And I want Bolduc to play with guys like that. And then you've got Dvorsky playing with Saad and Buchnevich. And You've got Kyrou Thomas and Neighbors on your top line. Like you've got young guys that are mixed in with veterans on every single line. And I think ideally that's the way you would like to make this thing work. It'll be interesting. I think they're probably not going to do it. And to your point, I think Perron would probably like to sign with a contender.
Yeah.
But if he's open to the idea of it, and if contenders say, you know, we're kind of going a different direction, we'd like to see somebody a little younger, a little bit more spry, I would love to see him back here in St. Louis.
That's just the dude that I think you have to have on this team because of Bolduc, Dvorsky, and Snuggerud moving forward. Because his mindset is what I want every player on this roster to have going into the next 3 to 4 seasons. Maybe it's not going to be this year, but just talking with him and understanding how much this team and this franchise, the city, means to him, it would not surprise me if he's back with this roster either at the end of his career or once he calls it a career in some capacity.
You know who I think would value him? Alex Steen.
Yeah.
Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll hit the BK and Ferrario Rewind. But coming up next, we'll get to One's Gotta Go. You give us 4 options. We'll tell you which one's got to go. 314-399-9646 is the place to do so here on 101 ESPN.
Terry Hendricks with a Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Cardinals currently in action as they've started game one of their 3-game set in Chicago. They are tied 0-0 in the top of the second against the Cubs. Kyle Gibson is on the mound for St. Louis. And tonight here on 101 ESPN, Game 4 of the NBA Finals as the Boston Celtics go for a sweep over the Dallas Mavericks. Well, pregame coverage starting at 6:30. This Sports Center update is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
With Alex and T-Bone on BK, let's dive into One's Gotta Go. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. You give us 4 different options. We'll tell you which one's got to go here on BK and Ferrario. Alex, one's got to go Seasons Edition. Summer, winter, spring, or fall. I think you know the options.
No, I didn't. I was hoping you'd explain those to me a little bit more. What is this thing you call spring? Because we don't really have that in St. Louis.
We actually got a pretty good spring this year.
Yeah, I'd still get rid of it.
Nice.
I'd still get rid of it.
Spring?
Mm-hmm.
Summer already sucks.
Can you explain that one to me a little
I like
bit?
summer, man. Even when it's hot, I still enjoy summer.
Spring?
Allergy season? That's a big one for me.
Man, I feel like we had some really nice rain this spring.
Well, I know you doom and gloom love that.
I remember seeing a lot of tornado warnings.
Yeah, I remember seeing a lot of hail damage and people being obliterated by tornadoes.
Now, there was that too, but there was some pleasant rain for the most part.
Even though the weather is awful, because it is when it gets this hot, I still enjoy it. Get to do a lot more fun stuff in the summer.
Today, this is miserable.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to summer, and I say that as a guy that's got a birthday in the summer.
Me too, man.
My
birthday was the
hot
worst.
And miserable.
I'm trying to decide at this point in my life what's worse, the extreme heat or the extreme cold, and I don't know.
It's the only time you can go in the water.
The cold. I can handle the cold.
I can handle the cold. You can always bundle up. You can't take clothes off.
It's miserable though, dude. When it gets super cold outside, you can't do anything.
Yeah, but there's
nothing to do out there.
It's the only season.
Just avoid it.
It's the only season you can go in the water.
Christmas is nice.
It's the only season you can go in the water in the summer.
That's what I'm saying. There are activities you can do that make the heat tolerable. Yeah. There is nothing you can do out there when it's cold.
I mean, I do get cabin fever in the wintertime.
5 degrees, you're just inside at all times.
There's nothing better than being by a nice warm fire, drinking some hot cocoa.
I do enjoy a good fire.
That's why the fall is not hot. Get out of here.
Who said that?
Somebody on the text line.
So this is not hot.
It's supposed to be 95 degrees for each of the next 3 days. Get the hell out of here.
But I don't think the humidity is supposed to be bad in the next couple of days. So
tomorrow the humidity is bad. Oh. That's why I'm golfing. It's terrible idea. I still
my phone is red. Just red.
Why is it red, man?
Next to the temperatures, it's just red for the next week. Get out of here.
I'll do what I'm going to do. Not go outside.
I still would take this
going to be miserable.
Yeah, that's why I'm not going to be outside.
Happy Father's Day, everybody.
Yeah.
I still would take summer over spring any day of the week. So, there's not much that goes on that spring.
To answer the question, I'm getting rid of winter.
Going?
I think I would get rid of winter.
Get rid of it.
All right, one's got to go. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. You give us 4 options. We'll tell you which one's got to go. One's got to go Highway Edition in St. Louis.
All of them.
All of them.
55, 270, 44, or 64/40.
It will always be 64. I hate that highway, and I've made it very clear to my wife we will never live anywhere near that highway where I would need to take it. I hate everything about it.
I hate 270. And
I mean, I do too.
I had to take it every day when I lived with the grandparents. It gets clogged up for truly no reason at all.
Dude,
same with 64.
I was about to say, have you ever been on 40 next to Big Bend?
I don't do that.
Doesn't matter what time of day it is.
Try coming home from Busch Stadium at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon when there's no problem and take 64 east.
Dude, 40, you get to, what is that, Brentwood?
Yeah.
Right by Big Bend. Doesn't matter what time of the day it is. It could be 3 a.m. or 3 p.m.
So what I said was right. All these highways stink.
No, 55 actually is not bad until they got the road construction. I always took 55. That was great. But now they got like 2 lanes shut down.
I don't like 44 either.
Oh, I love 44.
No,
44 is the easiest travel. Never problems with it.
I
love 44.
Remember last time I took 44?
You know what I love is 370. 370 really makes my life much more enjoyable.
This whole conversation makes me miss small town Illinois.
Does it though?
Being out in St. Charles and having 370 and 364, life changers.
Yeah.
Absolute life
They
changers.
all suck.
All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. One's got to go eating competitions for Tanner edition.
Oh.
I'm going to get rid of that part. Just eating competition.
Oh, you just selfish and don't want Tanner to answer?
Yeah, I mean,
Why am I the one that got singled out there?
You know, that's what he does, man. He singles
It's text
people
line.
out.
I
I'm
didn't do
not
it.
in my
Text line.
prime, but I'm not that big a guy.
All right,
Whoa.
one's got to go eating competition edition. Hot dogs, sliders, wings, or nachos? Which one's got to go?
Oh, you can't do an eating competition with nachos.
Yeah.
You would
That
stab
feels like it would
yourself
be
in the
bad.
mouth so many. If you would have said tacos, it would have been a little
Yeah.
different. Nachos, man, you stab yourself in the mouth so many times, it's not even funny.
Get rid of the nachos.
Yeah, nachos, it's a terrible
Not even
decision.
close.
If you're doing nachos, you got to enjoy the nachos. All those other ones you can eat fast.
Yeah, I've done a cider eating contest before.
Really? That feels like it
Nah.
ends poorly.
That one would make me sick.
It was not fun.
All right, one's got to go Blues trade edition. Sod, Letty, Booch, or Kairu? Which one's got
The one I wouldn't trade?
well, they would be gone. So the one.
Oh, the one you would trade? I'll say Sod here. I think the other ones have the high upside. I think Sod, you know exactly what it is. It's good, but I'm okay if I move on from it.
I trade Booch. I think best return out of all those. Like Saad is more of a salary dump, and you probably get more for him at the deadline. Kind of the same with Letty. Kairu is like a hockey trade sense. Booch is one where you can gain real assets. So I would say Booch would be the one for me.
Letty.
What?
I'd trade Letty.
He's been your best defenseman last season with Colton Parayko.
Yeah, I want to upgrade.
Well, I do too, but I think you should probably move on from other guys.
I would deal Letty because of the roster spot. I want them to bring somebody else in, and they would have to. Like, there is no other option. You can't just run it back and like use the same guys that you had from a year ago. If you were to trade Nick Letty, it would necessitate them making a move. So I'll say go ahead and trade Nick Letty to make sure they are getting something of significance. Top pair, left-handed defenseman. That would probably be the one that I would go with here if I had to name at least one of them. For Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. Right now is your chance to score a pair of tickets to see Def Leppard and Journey with Cheap Trick. That's coming up on July 6th at Busch Stadium. Tickets on sale now, or you can just win right here on 101 ESPN. This is your last chance to do so this week here on BK and Ferrario. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. If you are texter number 101 with the correct answer to the following question, you're getting that pair of tickets to see Def Leppard and Journey with Cheap Trick. Earlier today, during the junk drawer, we talked about the middle school that had like 20 pairs of twins that had graduated in the 8th grade class. What state was that school in? What was the state in which that school existed in? If you have the correct answer to that question, you're getting that pair of tickets to see Def Leppard and Journey here from BK and Ferrario. Coming up next, we'll hit the rewind here on 101 ESPN. With Alex and T-Bone on BK, 314-399-9646 is always the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. We do have our winner of the Def Leppard and Journey tickets, so no need
That's
to continue.
BK saying, stop texting!
Yeah, we don't want to ruin the text line for the fast lane, and sometimes the guys get a little upset.
Send them those
about
tongue
that.
emojis.
So don't do that, please. Their Comfort Service text line will be back open whenever the fast line is on.
What's the reaction if it's just a slew of tongue emojis at 2 o'clock?
Oh my God.
What were these guys talking about?
They'd be like, hey, did Josh come back in for the 145 segment? Got some questions about it. If you missed anything from today's show, be sure to check it out on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all presented by
Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers.
Alex, Cardinals playing right now. Kyle Gibson on the mound. It's a scoreless tie. Unfortunately for the Cardinals, they are now ineligible to score runs the rest of the game because Wicks, the starter for Chicago, has left the game, and that means Kyle Hendricks has entered the game for Chicago. And we know, Alex, that means the Cardinals can't win.
Yeah, I don't know if people know this about Kyle Hendricks, but he's an average, below average pitcher unless he plays the Cardinals. Then he is Cy Young. And basically, it's going to be no-hit baseball the rest of the way. So congrats, Cardinals. You're going to lose 1-0.
Have you seen what he's done so far this year?
Yeah, he's
terrible.
a bullpen arm for him.
He has a 9 ERA on the season.
Today, he's going to drop that bad boy down to about a 7.
Yeah, he's abysmal. This is why these pitch-to-contact pitchers, it's a lot harder for them to age gracefully now in baseball.
It's worth noting in his last 2 appearances, he's gone 4 1/3 innings and has not allowed a run. So we'll see if he continues
He's
that.
so going 6 the rest of the day.
Effort today. All right, Alex, let's finish off the show by talking a little bit about the Cardinals heading into this weekend. It does feel like an important series for the Cardinals, but every series at this point feels important. They're in this race with the terrible teams in the middle of the National League. Chicago's included in that. And this is where the schedule continues to remain open. It started with Colorado. They didn't take advantage there. They only won 2 out of the 4. They won 2 out of 3 against Pittsburgh. Good job. You deserve the credit for doing that. You did the job that you needed to. You got to continue doing that against Chicago, and then against Miami, and then against San Fran. And yes, I'm going to include Atlanta in here because they're not very good right now either. Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Washington, Chicago. The rest of the first half of the schedule leading into the All-Star break needs to be the time in which the Cardinals take advantage of the opponents on the schedule and make put a little bit of distance between themselves and some of these other teams that are vying for those wild card spots.
Yeah, you just did it with the Pirates by taking 2 of 3. You buried them down a little bit more. Like this Cubs series, to me, for how bad the Cubs have been, and I know it's hard to get sweeps in baseball, you sweep this team, you bury this team. And that's an opportunity for at least the big skeptic like me to start believing like, yeah, you can get the playoffs. I don't know if I still believe you do something, but you pick up 3 wins. You're talking about pushing this team 4 games behind you for one of those wild card spots. And then you got the Reds to do it against. You've got the Nationals to do it against, San Francisco to do it against. Start separating yourself from the pack, because if all you do is pick up a series win, or if you lose a series in one of these games, then you're right back to who we were. Claves always talks about Flag Day. Well, today's Flag Day. You pick up a win, you're 500. You don't, you're 2 games below 500. I think that's exactly who you are.
Yeah, I think it's about building momentum against these teams, because June is about that month that we've talked about, is when the wild card picture starts to separate a little bit. And you don't want to be stuck in the middle to where you're having to climb above a couple of teams once you start to get close to the All-Star break and close to the trade deadline. But this is the time frame where you can say, okay, take 2 of 3, take 2 of 3, take 2 of 3. All of a sudden, you're the one that kind of separates yourself. So it's about momentum. You built good momentum. You did your job. You beat the Pittsburgh Pirates. Now it's about doing that in Chicago, which has been a tough place for the Cardinals to play. Weird stuff happens with the wind that's down up at Wrigley.
Games.
Exactly. So and in a series in which you don't really have the pitching lineup the way you'd want. You know, you got Gibson today, which is nice, but you got Palante tomorrow and Michaelis on Sunday. That's not ideal for how you'd want to go into Wrigley, but can you just find a way to win 2 of 3 and continue to build momentum? And then the series you get next is Miami. That's a cupcake. That's when you should be building momentum once you start to come back home for that important stretch.
Chicago has not won a series that counts in a month.
Wait, hold on. What's the caveat of counts?
It's not a real baseball team that they beat.
They beat the White Sox 2 in a row.
Who'd they beat earlier this season?
Again, it didn't count.
Oh.
Because they're not a real
you're
baseball
right.
team.
Just like I say the Orioles win doesn't count.
The last time the Cubs won a series against a team not named the White Sox was May 10th through the 12th, a month ago. Literally a month ago against the Pittsburgh Pirates that was on the road. But Since then, they have not won a series against anybody other than Chicago White Sox. This is a bad team right now. You're catching them at the exact right time. They are really going through it offensively. Their beat writers, their columnists up in Chicago are talking about how this roster construction is a disaster. The team has not come together as anticipated. The bullpen isn't as good. Like they've got a lot of problems right now in Chicago. Keep them feeling that way.
Remember when everyone was like, Craig Counsell's joining the team. They're going to be the best in the NL Central because of their manager.
And then the Milwaukee Brewers were like, peace. We're going to keep being the best team in the NL Central.
They did the Tyreek Hill one, just looking back with the peace sign.
That's what they're doing as the Cubs right now are 7.5 games back of the Milwaukee Brewers in this putrid division. Credit to the Brewers, dude. They just keep doing it. The Brewers right now are 2 wins. They have the same number of losses, but 2 wins behind the LA Dodgers. I don't. It doesn't make sense to me, but credit where it's due. They are. If you're looking at run differential, 100 runs better than the Cardinals so far this year. They're a +61. Cardinals are a -38. It's unbelievable.
I just don't.
Literally can name 3 position players on their roster.
The other thing is, like, they've got so many injuries with their starting staff. I think Peralta's on the IL now. If I'm not
Devin
mistaken.
Williams out there. Hader's gone. Like it's crazy. It's honestly one of the most impressive things of this major league season that they are as good as they are.
If you told me that they had a solid offense, I'd say, okay, I could see that, where you have Adames bounce back, Yelich bounce back, Hoskins is there. The one I didn't see was like, okay, look at their rotation. I looked at the rotation like, oh, that's not very good. And then, okay, now take 4 of those guys away, and they're still pretty good.
It's amazing. Kudos to them, the front office, the management, everything.
Yet the Cardinals keep approaching the offseason like, we can compete in the NL Central.
For Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. I will talk to you guys on Tuesday. Alex and T-Bone with Grant will have you taken care of on Monday. I'll be back in with the morning show on Monday morning, so I'll talk to you guys then. It's my first Father's Day for all of you that are celebrating. Happy Father's Day to each and every one of you. We'll talk to you guys next week here on 101 ESPN.